Am I the asshole here for telling my now ex-girlfriend that her manic episode was no excuse for her cheating? I, 25 male, dated my now ex-girlfriend, 25 female, for 2 years. For the most part, things were going great, although there were issues with her sometimes, usually with fits of anger, but it wasn't too bad. Well, all of that came crashing to an end when my girlfriend had what was a manic episode. After drinking copious amounts of alcohol on a night out, she had a severe manic episode where she spent $10,000, cheated on me by sleeping with a random stranger, and then sending incomprehensible audio messages to me. She was checked into a mental health facility after that episode and diagnosed with BPD. She had long suspected that she maybe had this, but it had never manifested so intensely. The psychiatrist said that she had underwent psychosis, severe mania, and had BPD. Since then, she was placed on meds and undergoes talking therapy. Shortly after, she confessed to me she had cheated and was extremely remorseful, saying she would never do anything like that. I was shocked by her admission and had to hide my tears. I basically stormed out and went to a hotel by myself for a few days. I then plucked up the courage to confront her. She tried telling me that she loves me and that she has a lot of regret for what she did, and that she feels immense shame, and that it's because of her sickness. I told her that her mental health issues are not an excuse, and that it has nothing to do with that, and that she cheated because that's just who she is. I then told her that we are finished. She then began sobbing uncontrollably, saying that she wants to end her life. That really hurt me, but I stood firm. I told her that her cheating is her own fault, and it's a reflection of who she is, and that she needs to stop hiding behind her mental issues. Her friends have been messaging me calling me an asshole and heartless, but I feel like they're the ones being heartless. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Mr. 435 says, ex-wife had an episode after first child, things resolved, 13 years free of major manic episodes, and then it came back in regular cycles. Cycled for another 12 years, had an affair, asked for a divorce which was granted, and then married the guy, saved on alimony. If she doesn't take her meds regularly, then bail out. Psychosis literally implies that they are not capable of rational thought and were not acting like themselves. It's okay to be hurt by her actions. It's another thing entirely to wholesale write her off as a bad person due to ignorance of mental health crises. I agree with this. Breaking off the relationship is wholly fair game, but your actions have nothing to do with your psychosis, it's purely because you're just a bad person, displays a huge lack of awareness on what psychosis actually means. These people should most likely be separate right now for both their sakes. It's not her fault that she has BPD, but it's her responsibility. Facing the consequences of one's actions is a part of that, whatever those may be. Exactly. Mental health struggles are real, but they don't excuse harmful actions. Accountability is key, and sometimes that means accepting the consequences of those actions, even if it is painful. If she had legit manic psychosis, she did not know what she was doing. He can feel how he feels, but that shit is real, and legit BPD-1 with psychotic features is no joke. Exactly. If someone is seriously experiencing a different reality in their mind, how is it blaming it on their mental illness when that's a legit explanation for what they're doing during that? I don't blame him for breaking up, but there's a big misunderstanding of what mania and psychosis is here on a wider level. She may or may not have been responsible for what she did, but neither case means that he has to stand there and take it. Yeah, I think best case scenario here is that he just breaks up with her. It's obvious that there is a huge incompatibility here, and I'm not blaming him at all for feeling the way he feels as a result of her actions. She did cheat. And this is one of those instances where she genuinely wasn't in control of her own actions, and if she had been, I'm sure the cheating wouldn't have happened. That's not me excusing her behavior eitherwards. It's just an unfortunate circumstance that both find themselves in. This is a rock and a hard place. I think it's a hard one to judge if you're an asshole or not for saying that the manic episode was no excuse for her cheating. While yes, it is an explanation as to why she cheated, I think if you are genuinely not experiencing the same reality as you normally do, that is an excuse. I feel like that's permissible. Having talked to people who go through legit psychosis and what their thought processes were and what they were hearing inside of their heads terrifies me, and it's not something I ever want to experience in my life. I think the only thing wrong that OP has done here is be completely ignorant of the reality of psychosis. And that's fine, not everyone knows everything about everything. I don't want to attribute malice where it could easily be ignorance, and you're not an asshole for being ignorant. And now, onto the update. So, comments were split quite evenly. Many saying that I was not the asshole, but many saying that I was completely misinformed on mental health. Admittedly, I think I was perhaps a bit ignorant on mental health and how her psychotic and manic episode affected her state. I really contemplated it. My ex has been spamming my messages and begging to talk to me so that she can explain. I thought about it, and the truth is that while I have a more objective understanding of how her mental health led her to do what she did, I simply am not feeling empathy for her. My concern right now is to take care of myself, so I've blocked her on everything and also all of her friends. I think that this is the best path forward, rather than talking it out with her, as that could go badly for the both of us. In the comments, Certain Accident says, "Yeah, Mania is a witch, and not the happy sunshine rainbow-shitting unicorns that Hollywood portrays. But you absolutely need to take care of you first. The consequences of her actions are something that she has to live with, even after a manic episode. If we're lucky, it gives her reason to more openly and honestly talk with her doctor and seek the right therapies and medications that will work best for her to minimize episodes, instead of just what slaps a band-aid on it." OP says, "Thank you. I'm taking care of myself and reminding myself that her cheating is her own behavior. Hopefully when I'm well enough to date again, I will date someone who isn't suffering from a severe mental health disorder. As someone who's come through the other side of the same situation, you should probably do a little bit of soul-searching before going out there again. You might be naturally attracted to qualities that end up being red flags for mental health issues, and have to be a little more careful choosing mates. I'm also ignorant on mental health issues. Doesn't matter the reason behind it though. After cheating, I'd be gone. I'm bipolar. Cheating while manic comes up not infrequently in the community. Mental illness isn't our fault, but it is our responsibility, and infidelity is a valid deal breaker regardless of mood state." Good answer. My wife has had manic and psychotic episodes, and while it's extremely challenging on us both, I try to be understanding of the things that she does and says during this time. However, we both exist, and we both have the right to be treated with respect, and there are lines that if she crossed, that not even mental health episode would excuse her for, even if I knew that it really wasn't her or her rational self who carried out the action. As someone with bipolar, who's had some hypomanic, lower in intensity compared to the full-blown mania episodes, I can't even begin to articulate what it's like to not be all there and lose the driver's seat to some overpowering impulses that, at the moment, rewrite your reality and convince you that what you're doing is right. Thankfully, I haven't done anything as destructive, but I've torpedoed several relationships, and I can't ask for absolution because the harm done is real, even if I was not in control at that moment. Full-blown mania is a completely different beast. I'm also bipolar, and hypomania sucks to a degree that I can't explain, but I have had one full manic episode, and I just don't remember it really. It's psychotic. You aren't even remotely yourself, and everything you do is everything you would never do. I heard voices, thought that there was an intruder in my house, didn't recognize my family, left the house barefoot for hours, and went God knows where, etc. OP has no real obligation here, but mania is seriously underestimated, especially if she was not diagnosed prior. Oh, OP definitely doesn't have to stay. The cheating is a deal breaker for many. My whole issue is that unfortunately the mental illness is the cause, and it's not an excuse. I'm honestly scared of ever having full-blown mania. I got diagnosed and on meds as soon as I got through the worst hypomanic episode I've ever had that made me act in some concerning ways. Back then, I only thought that I had depression, but clearly something was very wrong. And then got the worst depressive episode, during which I was so out of it that I still can't recall 3 months of 2019. And yeah, I thought I'd include these comments because I hope that it helps people gain perspective as to what mania is like. And I guess the way that I view it is like a curse, you know? You can just suddenly lose control of yourself. And then you hurt those around you, and you don't even want to hurt those around you, but you're just taken over by something. Your brain is just this fleshy little meatball sitting in some water, being zapped by electricity, and it just starts to malfunction. That's terrifying to me. I don't blame OP at all for putting themselves first and just completely separating from that situation. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to get closure from your girlfriend who wanted to talk to you. That's completely fine, and I respect your choices there. Thank you for posting your experiences online. I very much appreciate it, and I'm glad that it can help people, kind of understand some mental illnesses a bit more. Am I the asshole here for prioritizing my nephew and niece over my own children after they hid their mum's affair from her for years? I, 57 male, was married to my wife for almost 25 years, and we divorced 4 years ago after I found out about her infidelity. She had an affair partner for almost 5 years. The whole process hurt me a lot because everything I did in life, I did for my wife and kids, and to now find that out about my wife, it just hurts me. My 2 children, 29 female and 26 male, had known about the affair for years, and they had hidden it from me. They both felt very guilty about it, and I don't blame them because they didn't want to break up their family. My daughter even cried a lot and apologized a lot of times, but I told her that it was alright. They had their own life now, and I didn't want this eating them up, so I told them to let go of the guilt. However, ever since I found out that they had hidden the affair from me, I lost a lot of love for them. I wasn't going to cut them out of the inheritance or will or anything like that, but emotionally, I couldn't connect with them at all. I also have a niece, 30 female, and a nephew, 28 male, who I have been very close with, especially since their father passed away at a very young age. I played a father-like role during their early years because losing her husband at such a young age was very tough for my sister. Over the last 4 years, I've also been looking forward to spending more time with them. Both my niece and nephew have children, and they have invited me over for their children's birthdays. They have also invited me over for their own birthdays, on Father's Day, and on holidays. Overall, we're a very tight-knit, multi-generational family, and I'm very proud to be a grandpa to their children, and we are already developing a bond. However, in doing so, I have lost all interest in connecting with my own children. My daughter has 2 children, while my son has his first child on the way. They've invited me over multiple times, but I've told them that I'm busy. I rarely go over, if at all, and I've missed almost all of their children's special occasions. I'm not really interested in being a grandpa to their children. Monetarily, sure, I have been sending them gifts, but I just don't feel like seeing them at all. My daughter especially seems very hurt by it at times, but I hope that she understands the reason for this. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Ches says, "Not the asshole for prioritizing your niece and nephew, but you do need to be honest with your children and tell them that they lost your trust when they didn't tell you about their mother's affair. Telling them not to feel guilty about it was obviously a kindness from you to make them feel better, but you should have also told them that, even though you don't want them to suffer from the guilt, you also don't trust them. It's more than that though. They caused irreparable damage to their relationship, and he has forgiven, but he can't forget and pretend that they're cool. If he tells them that he has lost trust, they may try to work on it and increase their contact. If he explains that he understands why they did what they did, and that he forgives them, but he's not able to forget, maybe they'll see that this is a direct consequence of their actions. The shame is that it isn't OP's grandkids' fault, and now his ex-wife has taken away his marriage, kids, and grandkids from him, which is so sad. This is how damaging affairs can be. You're not just messing up your life or your relationship with your spouse, you hurt everyone in the nuclear family and splash damage beyond. OP, this was all your wife's doing. She was the one who cheated. She was the one who put your children in a position to hide what they discovered in the first place. She's the one who continued with her affair partner instead of stopping right then and there. They knew that it was wrong of their mother, but talk about being between a rock and a hard spot. Do we tell Dad and break his heart, break up his marriage to our mother, who will be devastated too, uproot our whole lives because we told? Are we now to blame because we didn't want to ruin a whole marriage and family dynamic? Or do we hope to God that this all goes away and this family can get back to normal? Your children are your responsibility to protect, not the other way around. Your wife forced that upon them. Doing so ruined your relationship with her and with them. You would do yourself a great service to go to counseling. It's just too much to bear alone. Good luck, OP. I truly hope that you think about and repair your relationship. They are just as much a victim as you are. In some ways, I understand why you do like you do, but I think that it was a mistake to tell your kids to let go of the guilt, because clearly you were very hurt by their actions, and this will never be fixed if you and your children don't talk about it and they make amends. Of course, if you don't want to be a part of their life, then it's not something to fix, but if you want to have any interaction with your children and grandchildren, you need to make them understand how they have hurt you. But you are not the asshole. Your children did betray you, perhaps not as much as your ex-wife, but on the same level. So if you don't want anything to do with them, then it would be understandable. Yeah, this is an incredibly difficult one because where to go from here depends entirely on what OP wants. And it seems like, from their actions and from their words, they just only want to prioritize the nephew and niece. But reading between the lines and how I perceive OP's kind of mixed messages here is that they regret not having a relationship with their kids and grandkids, but don't know how to bridge that gap and don't know how to correct course. Because given the context of everything, of course you're not the asshole for your actions. It's completely understandable to want to keep those boundaries. But if there's a nagging voice inside of OP that regrets completely cutting their kids off and not spending any time with them, might this be one of those situations where they're sitting on their deathbed, thinking back on their life and regretting things that they could have done? Incredibly tough decision to make, in all honesty. And now, onto the update. Thank you all for the advice. The one thing that I got most from the comments was that my children deserve to know the truth and to not be left in a limbo like it was for years. And that's what I just did. I just got off a video call with my daughter and my son. The call was pretty rough and extremely emotional, but I got everything off my chest. I told them that while I had forgiven them, I could never forget it, and that for my mental health, it was better that we limit our interactions. I told them to not feel guilty about anything, but that also after dedicating more than half of my life to my wife and children, it was time that I put myself first. I told them that my heart wasn't in it to be a grandparent to their children. I was also honest with them and told them my heart was only in it for my nephews and nieces' kids, and whenever I did go to their house, I felt joy, while for my own children, I felt nothing. My children probably already knew that, but I wanted them to hear it directly from me. It was really hard to get it off my chest and say it directly to my children's faces. I told them they were still welcome to come to my house anytime and call me anytime they needed help. Both my children took the call really hard, but I think my daughter took it worst. Those were really ugly tears, and I felt really bad about it, but I do feel a sense of relief, and I have pretty much told all of my feelings to my children and didn't keep anything secret. I can now move forward with my life, and so can my children. In the comments, sad situation all around. Horrible, really. There is no legitimate way to judge this one. I just know from personal experience that OP and his children will all come to hate and regret this entire mess someday, when it's too late and he is dead most likely. Sometimes you just don't get closure. Sometimes there is no resolution, no forgiveness, no redemption, just an ending. My mother was wonderful the first half of my childhood, had a mental break, and became monstrously abusive from the ages of 13 to 20. Left me with so many mental issues and no tools to cope with them or language to identify them. Just after the birth of my first child, I invited my whole family to travel up and see the baby. She and I hadn't spoken in months and hadn't seen each other in years. On the second day of the visit, she dropped stone dead to the floor from a massive heart attack. I was 26. Oh my god. Oh my god. Life really is unfair. In my opinion, the measure of a person is really how they react to adversity and then how they react to that reaction. I didn't get closure, and I behaved really poorly that year and the next 3 years after. My grief was toxic, and I poisoned everything I touched with it. I damn near ruined my life, and I damn near ended it. But at some points, I stopped reacting and took stock. I started getting my life back on track. Those ugly years motivated me to be better and to get help, and most importantly, to allow myself to actually think about every thought and memory that I was hiding from. 12 years later, and I still don't have closure. I know and accept that I never will, but what I have found instead is a kind of peace on the subject of Mum. I've examined my whole life with her from every possible angle, dozens of times over, to the point of exhaustion. And now it just is. I've lived nearly as long without her as I did with her. She's just dead now, and that means what it means. I'm not sure that I actually need that closure anymore. It wouldn't change the past or give me anything that I can't give myself. I have allowed myself to be at peace. It still aches to think of what I lost and what could have been, but I honestly don't think about it much at all. I'm too busy living to be focused on the dead. Moving on from that story, someone asks OP, but wait, did they just accept it or begged for a chance? Also, did your kid's relationship with their mother suffer? OP replies, they didn't beg, but they did apologize a lot and also cried. And they asked me to reconsider. I told them I would, but for now, I would rather that we limit the interactions. Yes, their relationship with their mother has also suffered a lot. I see, man. Let me tell you, screw what Reddit says, whether you are right or wrong, do what is best for you. For once, think only of yourself. His wife betrayed him, but his kids were his own blood. I probably understand why this hurts twice as much for OP. This seems more like no assholes here, apart from the wife. What all the commenters blaming the kids are missing is the power dynamic in a parent-child relationship. 17-year-olds may be old enough to know better, but psychologically and emotionally are still very much children. I don't know how to cap this one off because there's just so much unsaid, and like that anecdotal story there, sometimes it just is. Sometimes you just don't get closure, a resolution, forgiveness, no redemption, just an ending. I'm sad that OP didn't want to pursue a relationship with his children, because for me, that's what I want to see him do, but that's not realistic. I wish OP all the best in navigating the rest of their life, and I hope that they can come to peace with their own actions and the situation as a whole. As always, thank you for sharing your story with us. Our next post is by user ThrowALady, titled, I, 22 female, think I need to break up with my boyfriend, 23 male, of 8 years. Wow. Okay, where to begin? So we've been dating for 8 years, we met in high school, and have been together ever since. We've grown and changed with each other, miraculously, and our relationship has been amazing. We were always communicative to each other, always doted on one another, have inside jokes that are years long, and have become so comfortable with who we are as a couple. Our relationship, by all means, is a wonderful one. But I guess I wouldn't be posting here if it was so wonderful now, would I? As we've entered into adulthood, I started asking the bigger questions that I realized I wasn't really getting answers on. He's been against having kids, but I want kids. My biggest advice that I received was to wait for his real answer when we were older, because I asked these questions after dating for 4 years. I asked him what he wanted to do with his future, where he saw himself career-wise, and what he was feeling about who he was as a person, if he was changing and growing. To be honest, whenever we speak about these things, I always feel like it gets really quiet. He becomes shorter with his words, a lot of I don't knows. After asking questions many times, I get some answers once he's thought about it, but this scenario has always been a regular for us. I'm asking bigger questions, trying to get feedback, and he gives little answers and asks to think about them. But we have always moved along. next day, next season. We are really happy with each other. We cuddle and watch Netflix TV shows. We go to the ice rink. We're having romantic dinners and tell each other how much we adore one another, but those questions start to bother me. Why doesn't he want to answer them? Why doesn't he ask those about me? Is it necessarily bad that he doesn't want to ask me? I mean, we're only in our 20s, but we've been dating for 8 years. The toss and turn was agonizing. I feel like I was waiting for an answer for a question that I asked years ago, regardless of the timeline. I felt more and more pressure to have them answered because we've been talking about marriage. When I would forget that those questions were so important to me, everything was hunky-dory. We'd talk about where we would live, the animals we would have, and name them, the kinds of TV shows that we'd watch on a weekly basis. I pushed the issues that I'd been feeling in my core back inside because I figured that if I'm a patient girlfriend, a loving one, a supportive one, then our relationship will get better. How long we've stayed together is a testament to our ability to grow together. We've done it for this long, so why wouldn't it continue happening? But it hasn't. It really hasn't, guys. This last weekend, something snapped. We were looking for places to live. We had 3 appointments. I was looking around the apartment, looking at the kitchen, looking at our bedroom, when we kissed each other goodbye after a post-appointment cuddle/nap, and I went back home. I burst out crying in the car. I was sobbing. When I got home, I called my mum, she came over, I was broken. Something died. Something straight up died. I don't know what's going on. I think I need to break up with him. I don't think that this is the kind of change that I can ask of him. I don't think asking him to change is fair. It's not that I haven't been patient. I have. He has been giving me his answers to all my questions. I just haven't been happy with what they are. The silence, the skirting around the topic, the I don't knows. I thought we could grow through any scenario, but moving in together put it all into perspective for me. I am not ready to move in with this guy. Earlier in the year, he told me that he was alright with kids, with having them too. And after that conversation, such a huge flood of relief hit me that I think spurred this season of ignorance. He answered my big question, so I was happy. But the reality is setting in. Does he really mean that? Did he say that to appease my asking? He has told me that I'm the best thing to happen to him, that he loves me, and that I inspire him to be a better person, and that he's happy that he's with me because he wouldn't know how to date anyone else at this point since we've been together for so long. I wish he had the motivation and drive and a goal for himself. I wish he thought about his future. I wish he was more excited about life, more positive about life. I wish he wasn't so angry at people and himself. I wish he approached his problems readily and openly. I wish he was more emotionally available. I wish I knew how to do this without destroying him, because I think it will. His family would all turn on him. I know it. We've been talking about marriage, we're looking at places to live together, and I just imploded. I imploded. My gut is telling me to do this, and it's never been wrong. But how? How on earth do I do this? In the comments, Acute Mericium says, "Hi, what you wrote really impacted me, and I would like to thank you for sharing that. I too have been feeling the same way as you in my own relationship, but I haven't been able to process the words. I don't really have advice. I haven't dealt with my situation, but what I will say is this. It is possible to grow from here. You are young, your future is bright, and you know what you want in life. You are too young to settle on the things that you will grow into. If you do break up, it won't be easy, but you sure as hell will make it through." There's been a quote that's been ringing through my head the past couple of days. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the things that you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore, dream, discover. Mark Twain. I hope that you find what is best for you. OP replies, I couldn't even read that entire quote. I started tearing up. There are two sides to me. The side that is firm in her decision, understands she made it long ago, and was waiting for the other half of me to wake up. Then the other side is the side that loves him, loves what we are, loves who he is, and is blissfully ignorant. Thank you for your encouragement. There is growth that can come from this. I don't want to settle. I don't want to be unhappy. I just thought that it was him for the longest time. And now it's not. I'll be okay, but holy shit, this is going to hurt, and I'm the one who's doing it. To him, his family, our friends. 8 years builds a huge network, and I'll be shutting part of it down. I'll recover. I know people will be okay, and I'll be okay, but causing hurt is just not what I do. But I can do it if it's for myself. Quotes, I wish he wasn't so angry at people and himself. There's something here. What is he angry about? OP says, he gets angry at people online. Angry at bad drivers on the road. He's just like me, for real. He gets angry when he's competitive. He gets angry when things don't happen like they should. I've told him that he needs to see someone about it, but he hates therapists. He's just like me, for real. He has a lot of resentment in his heart. When it's good, it's great, but when it's bad, it's awful. He's never violent, but he raises his voice, curses, and flips things over sometimes, like controllers or folders. I've never felt alright about it. Whenever he would start doing that stuff to me, I would put my foot down and let him know very clearly that he is never to treat me that way. It's the single thing that I've been unrelenting and strong about. He promised me the next time that it became a problem, he would see someone about it, but there has been little outbursts that don't warrant a problem, but are enough to put me on edge. This is a problem that he doesn't want to address for painful reasons, I think, but it's definitely added to the problem of me not wanting to be with him in the long term unless he got help and figured it out. OP, when told that she's not done growing and to be the best version of herself, says, "This is so real. And this is exactly why I posted on Reddit. And in a small way, even though I know he thinks I'm great too, I'd like to think that there's a best version of a partner out there for him too." Back up to the post, there's an edit. "Thank you everyone, so much for your comments. All of them. I've read every one. I think after the initial hysteria and realization of what I was feeling and putting it into written word, that I've come to realize what I am truly feeling. I'll post an update after this weekend when I talk to him. I'll tell you how it goes." Yeah, you guys have both changed so much as people throughout those 8 years, and I don't expect him to have an answer for kids at this point. While yes, it is understandable to be upset with him for being wishy-washy on those things, it seems to me that if he's not going, "I'm too young for kids right now, but I'm definitely open to them when we're older and more established," then it's a little bit less understandable, you know? Couple that with the emotional outbursts and not wanting to seek therapy. I know I made that joke, okay, it's a joke. Maybe it's time for that other half of yourself that is more ignorant and that is being placated by him to, stop taking the spotlight so much. The fact that you're posting on Reddit and you're spilling your guts to us says that you need validation and you need to be told that it's okay to break up with him. Because if you genuinely don't see a future with him because of the snowball effect of these big issues, you should just put yourself first and do what is right for you. There is always going to be someone else out there for the both of you. And now, on to the updates. So the big conversation happened on Friday, a day earlier than what I was expecting. After writing this post and speaking to trusted family and friends, I decided I didn't want to wake up like I had all week, feeling like shit anymore. I would open my eyes and just immediately feel that familiar pain in my chest. I wanted it to be over. He had been texting me normally in the week, so I knew he wasn't expecting this. It made it so much harder. That part wasn't easy, texting him back very plainly to avoid lying or leading him on. But I asked him if he'd like to meet on Friday, and he said he'd love to. So I went over in the morning after running a few errands with my brother. He drove what he called the getaway car and said he'd pick me up when it was over. It was so hard. His family was decorating the house for Christmas. As soon as I got there, his mother asked me to help drape some garland across the front porch. I stood there with my heart in my throat, helping her out. As soon as I found a window, I walked into the house and found him in the kitchen. He was still in his pajamas. I asked if we could talk in his room, and he said sure. He wrapped me in a hug and rubbed my back, and it took everything not to cry right then. We walked up the stairs to his room. I closed the door and gave him one last, huge hug in the privacy of his room. I took a breath and then asked if we could sit down. I sat crisscross and began. I told him that I had been in so much pain since we came back after looking at places to live together. I told him that I didn't think that we should live together. I told him that was because I didn't think that we should be together. I told him that it wasn't his fault, that this wasn't because he had done something wrong. I told him that I felt like there was something wrong with our relationship, and that I knew moving in together wasn't the right choice for us, and ultimately, committing to each other like that wasn't the right choice for me. I told him that I wasn't able to commit to him in that way when the choice came. I told him that it wasn't a smooth transition, that this decision came at me all at once like a freight train. I told him that I was sorry. He asked me why I was doing this. He looked absolutely shocked. He told me that he thought that everything was perfect and that he didn't understand why I was saying this. He asked me where we should go from here. I told him that I wanted to talk this out, since we've been together for so long. I told him I wasn't going to waver in my decision because I felt like it was the right choice to make, but I wanted to talk it out. Instead, he went to his dresser, got out of his pajamas, got into a change of clothes, grabbed his backpack, and left. His mother asked him for more Christmas help, but as far as I knew, he walked by her. I sat there in shock, I guess. Before he left, he said, "See you Saturday," because our friends were having a Friendsgiving. I could feel the hysteria come on. It was like a tidal wave, the reality of what I'd just done. It was like every elegant, composed, logical reason that I had for breaking up went right out the window. Every graceful approach I was going to take this conversation in just blanked on me. I was simply honest and raw, and now I felt like the shittiest person that I'd ever known. I got my shoes on and flew down the stairs. His mother was asking me for more Christmas help, but in the first time in years, I ignored her and ran out the front door. I was walking away from his house. After I reached the street, she came outside. I could hear her steps behind me. She called out my name with the same urgency that you call out to someone as if they forgot something in the house. I didn't turn around, and she called out my name louder again, and I rounded the corner towards the rest of the neighborhood. I then called my brother and asked him to pick me up. He was there in 2 seconds. The car was still moving as I opened the door and slid inside, and I was out of there. That was by far the hardest thing I've ever done. I was sobbing. My brother held my hand. It was loud, heartbreaking sobbing. I can't believe that I'd ended an 8-year relationship, but I did. I went home and my family was all there. They all comforted me through it and told me their breakup stories of their first loves. That was Friday. Today, Monday, I have to say, it was absolutely the correct decision for me to make. After the initial tears, hysteria, and destruction, I realized I had needed to make that decision for a long time. I feel fuller in a way, if that makes sense, and I'm excited for what's to come for me. Thank you all for your words of wisdom, your insights, and your support. I really appreciated all of your comments, and I read them a few times a day to give me strength in my down moments. I've gotten to the other side of this, and I appreciate all of your inputs. In the comments, Korean says, "You sound extremely mature for 22. Because of the fact that you were with your boyfriend for 8 years, I imagine your lives were intertwined. Down the road, it's possible that you will miss him, miss the relationship, miss everything that you two shared, and may feel like you've made a huge mistake. It's all normal to feel that way, and if you do, please do not hesitate to talk to your supportive family and friends." OP replies, "I'm prepared for the idea that I'll miss absolutely everything. I'm either really well adjusted, or this is just a phase before I go back into feeling awful. Either way, in this clear mindset, I'm bracing for it and trusting my conviction. Oh man, I know exactly how you feel. I ended an 8-year relationship about 3 years ago. While I broke the news to him, there was this loud scream in my head to stop, stop, stop. But after the hysteria settled, I knew that I made the right choice. I was surprised by how quickly my ex moved on. I moved on too though, which made me realize that perhaps he wasn't totally happy either. Good luck to you. OP replies, "Oh my god, I know what you mean about the screaming. It feels like there was a spirit inside of me throwing chairs around my head screaming, 'Why have you done this? Why would you? Stop! Go back! Take it back!' It was agonizing. Change is hard, but I had no idea the mental warfare that I would experience. I thought that it was all just heartache. Thank you for the well wishes." Opie added this comment about her brother, "You're right, I didn't go Saturday." A small discovery throughout all of this is that my brother and I aren't particularly close. We've had a rough childhood with our dad, and he moved to Seattle out of college. Him holding my hand throughout all of this was the most brotherly thing that he has done. I will remember that forever. I really feel closer to him now. Forgiven Madness says, "That initial regret, hysteria, and fear that hits when you break up with someone you really care about, but isn't good for you, it's intense. I still remember that feeling even though it's been 10 years. I also remember the relief I felt when it passed, and the freedom. OP has a stronger back than me. It took me 3 tries to get over that initial hump." My pseudo-psychological reasoning for this is that we are wired to bond. It's not that long, in the development of humanity, since being closely bonded to others was a matter of survival, and there wouldn't be many options if you pulled away. And pulling away would be seen as unusual, so you might have a hard time finding someone else. Our situations are mostly different now, but we're still wired to bond, and somewhere within us there can be a feeling that staying bonded is a matter of survival. Survival instincts are extremely powerful, but we can recognize that this particular instinct can be counterproductive for us. And of course, she also felt that she was abandoning someone she loved. He at least made it pretty easy to disengage as well. He didn't try to beg or talk her out of it, he just left. The ex that I had so much trouble breaking up with threatened to hurt herself, begged, pleaded, and cried. She was my abuser, so we had that trauma bond as well. It's wild how our brains work. As bad as some people are for us, we still like the stability and comfort of knowing what we are getting even if it is not great. It's the reason why people stay at jobs they hate for so long. Relationships are even more complex, as there's usually good with the bad or other challenges that make it so hard to leave, like knowing their family or living together. And back up to the post, there is an edit. To be honest, I'm shocked again at the response. Thank you all, even the people who don't agree with my decision. If I were to respond to all of you and include every single detail of our relationship to try and justify myself, I think it would defeat the point of reading your honest responses, because that's what I'll be dealing with going forward. I appreciate every comment. I've gone through and read them all. Thank you for your eyes and time spent giving your input. Am I the asshole for not inviting my coworker to my wedding because of her diet restrictions? Posted by UnluckyGirl749. I'm getting married in a few months, and I'm currently finalizing the guest list. I work in a small office, and we're a pretty tight-knit group, so I decided to invite most of my coworkers. There's one coworker, let's call her Jane, who I get along with well enough, but we're not super close. Here's the thing. Jane has a lot of very specific diet restrictions. She's vegan, gluten-free, and allergic to a bunch of common ingredients like soy and nuts. Whenever we have office lunches or potlucks, it's always a bit of a challenge to accommodate her, and sometimes she just brings her own food because it's easier. When I was working with my caterer to plan the menu for the wedding, I realized how difficult and expensive it would be to create a dish that Jane could eat. I was already stretching my budget, and the thought of spending extra money to accommodate just one guest felt overwhelming. So I made the decision not to invite Jane. I felt bad, but I rationalized that we're not that close, and I'd rather avoid the stress and additional cost. I didn't mention anything at work, but word got out that I was inviting other co-workers, and Jane noticed that she wasn't included. She confronted me about it and seemed really hurt. She said she thought we were friends and that she would have been happy to bring her own food if it was an issue. Now some of my co-workers are giving me the cold shoulder, and I'm wondering if I really messed up. I didn't want to make her feel excluded, but I also didn't think that she'd want to come if I couldn't accommodate her diet. Am I the asshole for not inviting Jane to my wedding because of her diet restrictions? In the comments, Reasonable Raccoon says, quote, I didn't want to make her feel excluded. So you excluded her? Why didn't you just talk to her? Seriously, this was such an easy conversation. Jane, my caterers are going to charge a fortune to prepare one meal that you can eat. Can I just give you $20 and you bring your own food? I wonder how people think they're mature enough to get married, but not communicate a simple issue like this, and rather just treat somebody like crap instead. You're the asshole. Communication is a dying skill, it seems. I feel like every other problem here could have been solved with just asking a question or talking about the matter. You're the asshole. Most people who have dietary restrictions usually bring their own food or something, as you pointed out. It probably would have been better and easier not to invite any of the co-workers. Since you mentioned your group is tight-knit, it sounds like you might not have invited everyone. Usually it's easier to invite no one and then blame it on your budget, something that everyone will understand. I have a cousin with many food allergies. We just let the venue, they did the catering too, know that we had someone who had to bring outside food. They were very accommodating, probably because it made their job easier to not have to deal with special food prep and keeping contamination out of the kitchen. I let my cousin know that they would need to bring their own food for the evening and that they might want their own plates and utensils just in case. Cousin asked what the menu was so they could make a similar meal, just for the fun of it. Super easy. Yeah, I want to find an exception for you here to be like, well, you know, it is your wedding, and they did punch you in the face on your birthday, so they kind of deserve not to be invited to it. But I think you stumbled your way into failure here, unfortunately. You understand that they're a tight-knit group of co-workers, and not everyone got invited. I am sure that your ass is getting cooked in the group chat. They have some choice words for you. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in that group chat. I'm sure there's some stories going around. I don't understand how just talking to her seemingly didn't cross your mind. Like, it's your wedding. I don't know, did you feel embarrassed that you couldn't talk to her about it? And you're like, oh, man, I don't want her to feel left out, so I'm just not going to talk to her about it and not invite her. If you were self-aware enough to realize that this is how you behave under duress, I do think that you should have gone down the budget path and not had any of the co-workers be invited. But hey, all is not lost. You can always just go and apologize and say, hey, I messed up. I didn't communicate. I should have communicated. Let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. Let's fix this. As it stands, you're the asshole for the situation you've created. And now, onto the updates. Hey everyone. I didn't expect my last post to get a lot of reactions, so this is an update to this post. Are you actually trolling? There's no way you couldn't expect that to get a lot of reactions in Am I the Asshole? Who are you? First, I want to thank all of you for your honest opinions on my original post. It's been a few days since I posted, and I've had some time to reflect on the situation and on your responses. After reading through the comments, and honestly after sitting with my own thoughts, I've come to the conclusion that yes, I was the asshole in this situation. I won't lie, it's not easy to admit this. When I first made the decision not to invite Jane, I genuinely thought that I was being practical. I convinced myself that since we weren't that close, it wouldn't matter much to her. But in doing so, I completely overlooked the fact that this isn't just about logistics or budgets, it's about relationships and how our actions, even those that we think are small, can have a significant impact on others. So how I'm reading that is, person that doesn't realize other people exist, realizes other people exist and is shocked. I realize now that by not inviting her, I wasn't just excluding her from a celebration. I was sending a message that she wasn't worth the effort, and that's not the kind of person that I want to be. And here I was, making her feel unwelcome because I didn't want to deal with a bit of extra planning. After the post, I decided to reach out to Jane directly. I apologized for not inviting her and explained that I was wrong to let my stress and budget concerns get in the way of our friendship. Jane was surprisingly understanding and appreciated the apology. We had a good talk, and while I'm not sure if I can undo the hurt that I caused, I'm hoping that we can move forward from this. I've also realized that sometimes the effort we put into our relationships, especially during significant moments like weddings, is what truly matters. It's not just about who's closest to us, but also about just making people feel valued and included. So for anyone out there planning a wedding or another big event, take it from me, don't get so caught up in the details that you lose sight of the people who matter. Thanks again, everyone, for helping me see this more clearly. I'll do better from now on. OP, who's holding a gun to your head as you're writing this? In the comments, Curvy Jamie says, "It takes courage to admit that you were wrong, and your willingness to apologize to Jane shows real growth and maturity." Totally agree. It was a mature thing to admit that you were wrong, OP. My question is Jane now invited to the wedding? Nah, screw that. Jane's learned her lesson. Jane ain't getting invited to shit. It's really great to see you reflecting and taking responsibility for your actions. It sounds like you've learned a lot from this experience. Thanks for sharing the update and showing that growth is possible. We all make mistakes, but it's how we address them that counts. Wishing you all the best moving forward. I feel as though the old Brothers Grimm fairy tales taught you not to be like this. I remember the original Sleeping Beauty as it was written in my Grimm's House Tales, where the fairy curses Sleeping Beauty because her father didn't invite her to the christening. Is that also the same Sleeping Beauty that gets impregnated twice by the man who couldn't wake her up? Interesting story, that one. And why didn't he invite her? Because there were 13 fairies and he only had 12 golden plates. What a stupid reason not to invite someone. No wonder she was angry. All of the old tales punished people for evil behavior. That was more important than the part where the good ones were rewarded. And even today, I see that the behavior that was punished is truly bad. Being greedy, being shallow, telling nasty lies to hurt people, excluding people for being ugly. Since the fairy godmothers and secretly helpful characters are often ugly, were all things that got punished. And differently to the adaptations, the evil people are also often beautiful. But it warns you not to be arrogant often enough. In the Grimm's version, do not read the French version, it's really disturbing. Oops, spoiled that one. The whole kingdom gets punished because the king is too shallow and stingy to just have his royal jeweler make another golden plate. And no one says, hey, that's really stupid. Just invite her and give her your own plate if needed. And the story teaches you to really think twice before you hurt someone for such silly reasons because it can have repercussions on you. And I think that's a good way to cap off that story. I hope that learning about the Grimm's version of Sleeping Beauty was a better experience than the French version, that's for sure. Don't know what's going on in France. Yeesh. But I guess all's well that ends well in this one. I'm glad that OP did apologize and did open up communication with Jane, even though Jane's still not invited to the wedding. Is that not a social faux pas? Is that not a social faux pas? What's going on? Hey Jane, just wanted to make sure that we're cool, but you're still not invited because I don't have a good reason to invite you still. I don't want to make you feel excluded, Jane, but I'm still gonna exclude you and the rest of the office can come. Anyway, I hope we're chill. It does take courage to admit that you're wrong. I'm glad that you learned from this. I'm glad that you're becoming more self-aware, that your actions have consequences, OP. I just hope that you don't repeat these mistakes in the future. As always, thank you for sharing your story with us. Our next post is by user TerribleMastodon50, titled, "If I won the lottery today, I'd probably file for divorce. Does anyone else feel like this?" So my wife, 39 female, and I have been married for 10 years. I actually love her, but I don't want to be married to her anymore. She had 3 children from a previous marriage, 2 of them live with us full-time, and we had 2 kids together. I don't feel appreciated or respected, and I feel far more peace of mind when she's away. I'm the sole breadwinner and have been the whole marriage, and as is, we live paycheck to paycheck. I can't afford to support 2 households. If I won the lottery, I'd split up with her. Does anyone else feel this way? My wife has been away from home for over a week, and this has caused me to self-reflect leading up to this post. Any suggestions on how I should broach this subject with her when she returns? Obviously, there is much more going on in our relationship, so in an effort to keep this short, I suggest checking out my post history if you would like more context. Thank you all. Additional information from OP regarding not loving his wife. Fair enough. Let me explain where I'm coming from. I was royally hurt by her. It was the worst pain that I've ever dealt with in my life. 4 years ago, after the pandemic dealt me a major setback in my career, I had to take a new job that was more hours intensive, as well as continue with rebuilding my previous career. I was away from home far more often and working longer, harder hours. Unbeknownst to me, while I was working, she reconnected online with an old flame, and she had an online emotional affair for 7 months, culminating in her asking me to open the marriage so that she could arrange to have sexual meetups with the guy, even though that she claimed that our dead bedroom was due to her health, which I supported her through without even asking or pressuring her about intimacy. And yeah, that is how I found out about the affair. She never went completely no contact with him, though when it was clear that I wouldn't approve of an open marriage, they eventually fizzled out and stopped communicating. She's still friends on Facebook with him until this day. I wanted to work it out, and I tried, probably too much, considering that she never did any work to regain my trust. I don't trust her, it's true. I want to. We watch TV together, we go places together, and can have fun together. I used to message her every morning telling her good morning and that I love her. I would give her kisses on the forehead leaving for work and try to hold her hand when we would do things together. I would run her back or give her hugs randomly. I would try to be flirty or silly. It's hard to keep up that energy indefinitely though, without reciprocation. As far as winning the lottery, yeah, I used to fantasize that I would win, and then if she stayed with me, I would know that she really wanted to be with me, and that she wasn't just staying with me because she had no other options. I wanted to be wanted. So yeah, sorry I don't love my wife. I'm dying on the inside after reading this. Oh my god. Brother, you winning the lottery and her wanting to stay with you does not mean that she wants you. You need some therapy to sort out this train of thought yesterday. And I don't say that to bag on you at all, OP. I say that because I want the best for you. OP on getting a divorce before winning the lottery says, "How do you guys afford it? I'm paycheck to paycheck and we're living in a house that my mum owns and my wife has nowhere to go or relatives close." Not asking for specific legal advice, but have you guys experienced something like that, where you end up being able to get at least 50-50 custody of the kids and afford to live? I also live in California and just saw online about a 10-year rule for alimony. Eek. Right? Luckily, and also unluckily, we just moved into my mum's house last year, and she's giving us a great deal on rent. She built an ADU in the back. Since my mum owns it, I'm sure that I'd have a place, but I'm worried about my wife. Not just for her sake, but because I suspect that she'd blow up everyone's life over her inability to live anywhere, and it would be on me to afford everything. It's easier, yet stressful, to just keep the peace. In the comments, Peace at Fancy Feast says, "There's nothing to say to her about this until you've made a decision about what you want to do. If you're going to stay, you should share your discontent and make specific asks that you think might help you feel better in the relationship. But you shouldn't just tell her that you don't like her and that you'd leave her if you won the lottery." OP says, "I actually do like her and have wanted to work on things. She usually makes a sorry token effort and then nothing. We get along fine as friends, but what we have now I wouldn't call a romantic relationship. I thought maybe explaining how I feel in these terms would wake her up to where I actually am." OP on if there are communicating issues. OP says, "Yeah, we communicated and communicated. I don't think the dead bedroom is even worth the effort anymore. Most of my posts that you're referring to are my way to vent and get less passionate views right before approaching her, the same way this post is." OP on getting proof of the wife's cheating. "It was my understanding that it does not here in California. It was an emotional affair, online, with plans, that as far as I know never came to fruition. I know it's sad, but I kind of been hoping that she cheated on this current trip and I can find proof. It would make it way easier on me to leave." Therapy for OP and his wife. OP says, "I did individual therapy but could not continue. She won't do marriage counseling. I've asked her to try and get a job, and she blows up about it and gets angry and upset. I guess I haven't really forgiven her, but I've tried. It's just hard when there has never been any true remorse. I don't really have conversations about it anymore. To be honest, it's too draining, and it's easier to just do my thing and let her do hers. And it's just nice to have her out of the house for a bit and just enjoy life with my kids. The further this goes on, I'm just watching a freight train going past me that's just on fire, and the fire never ends. The freight train just keeps on going, and there's just more fire. This is genuinely such a mess of a situation, and I don't know what the solution is. In my mind, you separate and divorce and kick her out of the house, and she goes and finds relatives to live with. But that's cruel because she will take along with her all of the 4 kids that you guys have in your custody. No one wins. Maybe the separate option is to just stick it out until everyone's 18 and then divorce her, and then the kids can kind of do their own thing and live with you if they want. I don't know the answer, but your marriage died so long ago. It's dead, and it continues to sink further into the ground. That much I know. I completely get why you're trying to revive it, but she does not want to revive it ever, and I don't think she ever will. Update. My wife got home from a trip on Sunday night. She and I talked last night, and I guess it went as good as it could have. I'm still trying to figure out what it all means for me, but I think it's good. So after talking, lots of emotional outbursts and anger, and honest misunderstandings, we're finally on the same page, and it's kinda wild. She and I, since at least the beginning of the year, have seen our entire lives together differently. She claims that after a mutual magic mushroom trip, I said that I should have just let you, referring to her, do your own thing, claiming that she thought that I was referring to letting her open the marriage. Literally nothing like that had ever entered my mind, and I don't recall saying it at all, which leads me to believe that in our altered states of mind, she saw it as a significant statement, and I suspect if I did say it, it was a throwaway comment about something else. Gaslighting she is. Anyway, from that point on, and because she basically explained that she has no interest in a sexual relationship with me anymore, that she assumed that we were basically friends cohabitating and co-parenting. Holy hell! I thought that we were still trying that whole time. Looking back at all of our interactions makes so much sense now. She's been extremely amicable but affectionately cold. Every time we went out, we had fun, but I felt cut off from the kind of affection a husband and wife should have for each other. There are so many interactions that just make more sense in this context. There were things that she said or asked about that just make more sense. She thought that I was seeing someone for a while, and asked about stuff, which I answered honestly about, but that she thought was just an attempt to hide it. I think that assumption just reinforced the idea that we were in essence romantically separated. Well, it's weird to both mourn, but also find sanity in a realization. As far as I'm concerned today, I'm single. We can't afford to separate our residences, but that is fine. I know that will limit my dating options, but I'm not looking into dating anytime soon. It's just nice to know that this is an option for me when I'm ready. I plan on working with my wife to work out separate finances and slowly untangle as much of our lives as we can under the circumstances. In the comments, Appropriate Amoeba says, "Open relationships require a lot of communication. Absolutely wild that she heard one offhand comment, didn't ask for clarification, and went off on her merry way. Just wow." OP replies, "No. In the moment we were talking, I didn't think too much about it, except there is absolutely no way that I said this. I've been steadfast on that subject since waking up to the affair 3 years ago. I let this go last night in an effort to move the conversation forward, but this isn't sitting well with me, and I think I just figured out why. She was very defensive when discussing the retreat that she returned from. I have reasonable suspicions based on aspects of our conversation and now browsing her social media posts surrounding the event. Unfortunately, at the moment, I can't kick her out and I can't leave. I will be moving towards legal separation and divorce though. It's just not going to be easy. Crap. Sounds like it was a much-needed conversation. Now you know exactly what state your marriage is in, so you can finally grieve as needed, focus on separation, and leave this mess behind. It's wild to me that she would act as if she's single based on a brief conversation while high. This seems like the type of thing that you confirm once sober if you actually care about being honest and on the same page. It sounds more like she simply stopped caring what you thought. I suppose the one positive is that it sounds like you two will be able to co-parent amicably. That's good for your kid or kids, at least. OP says, let's say now with space, the conversation hasn't sat well, and I've done some research about the retreat that she returned from. I know that this is ridiculous, but I think she had an effing psychic boob reading. Lol. There was a guy there whose shtick is to get girls to send him boob shots so that he can give them psychic readings. There's probably more with that joker, but damn, she's headed for a crash, and honestly, it's not my problem anymore. Surely it can't get any worse. Surely it can't get worse than this. Please, get me off this train. She's going to gaslight you forever. OP says, yeah, I figured. She's in my life as the mother of my children and the mother of other children I love and raised for 10 years. At this point, it may be easier to slowly disentangle myself and do my own thing. That starts with me taking control of my money. Maybe a stupid question, but why is it on you to work out your separate finances when it's your wife who needs to sort out hers? From your previous post, it sounded like she's been hoarding money for herself. Why can't you do the same now? OP says, I think there is a misconception. I don't think hoarding money is really what's going on. There's really not enough to hoard. She withdraws money from the joint account and puts it into an account that I have no access to, claiming that we need every cent and that she's lost track of the many subscription payments and doesn't want any surprise money coming out when we need it for other things. I think it's really about controlling the money. I have to ask her to transfer before I can use it. It's stupid and it's financial abuse against me. Luckily, all money coming in I have control of. My plan is to initially deposit money into a new account that I have control of, and then she and I will sort out bills and debts and family expenses together, with the both of us having veto power with family expenses. At that point, after paying the bills, I would transfer the family expenses plus half of any remaining money to our joint account, and actually have money of my own to do what I want with, like spend or save. I am not prepared for the shitstorm in the comments down below. Oh my god. That's the end of that story, and I am losing faith in humanity. I want it to be fake, but it's just so tragic that I believe that it's real. And this is why people are always saying in the comments to Reddit posts, thank God the mask slipped before you got married and had kids. This story is a testament to that. This is why you need to hear about so many different forms of abuse from partners, so that you can recognize when you were being abused, like OP, because to me it sounds like he didn't actually realize that his wife was such an abusive monster. If they can lie to you about one thing and hide something, what else is she hiding from him that he might never know about? She has done so much damage to him. She has betrayed him in so many different ways. I don't know how he is justifying not kicking her ass out to the curb and just keeping the kids. I think it's because legally that's going to have dire consequences, and he may lose custody of the kids by doing something like that. I'm sure that's how we can justify this one, but holy shit, the parasites in me, the parasites are urging me to say, you need to kick her ass to the curb, divorce that evil woman, grow that spine that you so desperately deserve, and let her suffer homeless if need be for all the damage that she has done to you. You deserve so much better, King. I really hope that if you ever post another update, it says that she's gone and you're in a much better place and with someone that actually loves you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Our next post is by user Purple Sunshine, titled, Am I wrong for refusing to meet my biological mum after in person I signed up for a DNA testing site? So I, 24 male, who was adopted when I was 6 years old, have always felt incredibly lucky because of my adoptive parents, who were in their late 20s when they took me in, and have been nothing short of amazing. They've loved and supported me as if I was their own flesh and blood, and I've never felt like anything was missing in my life because of being adopted. Growing up, I had very minimal details about my adoption. I know that I was removed from my biological family by social services due to neglect and abuse, but I don't remember anything about my life before I was adopted. It's not something that I've dwelled on much because I've never felt like I needed those missing pieces to feel complete or valued. Recently, out of simple curiosity, I decided to sign up for one of those at-home DNA testing kits. I wasn't looking for a reunion or any deep connection. I just wanted to know more about my genetic history, like why I was removed from my biological family, and if there were any medical issues that I should be aware of. Honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone closely related to me, so it felt like a low-stakes way to get some answers. About 8 weeks after sending off the kit, I finally remembered to check the results, and to my surprise, I matched with my biological mother, BM. She had sent me a message saying that she was overjoyed that I'd done the test, and that she desperately wanted to reconnect with me and the rest of my biological family. She mentioned that she's thought of me every day, that I was always loved, and even that I have a biological little brother who was very excited to meet me, something I didn't even know. Her message was really emotional, and to be honest, overwhelming. To me, she's a complete stranger, and reading those words didn't stir anything in me other than discomfort. I spent a lot of time crafting a thoughtful response to BM, explaining that while I appreciated her message, I wasn't interested in forming a relationship with her or any of my biological family. I made it clear that my reason for doing the DNA test was purely informational. I wanted to understand my past, maybe get some medical history, and learn why I was removed. But that was it. I apologized if my actions gave her the wrong impression. BM read my message and replied, saying that she'd be willing to give me all the information I wanted, but only if I agreed to meet her at a cafe to discuss our relationship further. I refused, telling her that I wasn't comfortable with a face-to-face meeting. I offered a phone call as a compromise, but emphasized that I just wanted the information and then for the both of us to move on with our lives. She outright refused to provide any information unless I agreed to meet with her in person and discuss our relationship. I talked to my best friend about this, and she sided with BM, saying that I was being unfair. She argued that by signing up for the DNA site, I'd essentially opened the door to this kind of situation, and that refusing to meet with BM now is like playing mind games and leading them on. So am I the asshole for not wanting a relationship with my biological mum after I signed up for the DNA testing site? In the comments, Queen of Meh says, "Not the asshole. She's holding your information hostage to get you to meet with her, which is her being the asshole. You were removed for a reason, and she probably wants to fill you in with her version. Since you know her name, can you contact the agency that removed you to request the information?" OP says, "I could have always gone through the route of getting in touch with social services and seeing what they can tell me, though I'm not sure how much they can share because of data protection, so I just thought that it would be easier this way. Also, it would have been nice to hear it from my family's perspective, if you get what I mean." Understandable, but remember, you were removed from their care permanently. There was a good reason for it. As a fellow adoptee, I vote not the asshole without question. You don't owe her anything. I'd argue that she owes you information though. Something she did caused the adoption to happen, and she's awful for holding that information hostage. Your friend is completely in the wrong, and if they aren't adopted, I'm not surprised about their opinion. A lot of non-adopted people have really weird opinions on how adoptees should feel and act. Classical one being that we should all feel grateful for our adoptive parents because they saved us. OP replies, "No, they are not adopted," which may explain their perspective. They did annoy me though, calling me unfair for not having a relationship with them, despite the fact that it's not something that I've ever wanted. It was unfortunate that BM saw that I was on there and messaged me first, and I feel bad that it may have given her false hope. I wish I could have been the first to message to get it out there right away what I was expecting. Not the asshole. Fellow adoptee here. I did meet my birth mother when I was 16, and I've spent the following 16 years regretting it. Mine is selfish and manipulative and pulled the same trick. I'll tell you everything when I see you. Nope, do not engage. Half of what she told me was outright lies, and she's desperately tried to wedge herself into my life at every opportunity when I've made it clear that I do not want her. How does it feel to be unwanted, egg donor? Welcome to my world. I'm an adult, I have my own children now, my parents were wonderful people. I didn't have the best life or anything, but I was raised by people who loved me and wanted the best for me. It's hard. Your BM has expectations, and you have different ones. The thing is, she's being unrealistic and unreasonable by holding the information that you want hostage. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. It's not right of her, and it's not fair to you. OP replies, I understood that what she would have told me wouldn't have likely been the objective truth, but I was interested in hearing it from her anyway. In some ways, I suppose I was a little bit curious about her and her life, but I didn't want a relationship with her at this point in my life. But that wouldn't have been me saying never, and she didn't tell me how old her other son is, but depending, I would have possibly been willing to meet him at least. The fact that she tried to force my hand has really left a sour taste in my mouth, and has made the whole thing icky. I think I've decided that I'm going to write her a final message about how I didn't appreciate being told that I would only be allowed that information if I met up with her and discussed a relationship with her. I think I will say it comes across as manipulative, and that is what put the final nail in the coffin that I certainly don't want anything to do with her. But does that seem too much? I'm not going overboard by saying that to her, am I? Not the asshole. I honestly find it a bit concerning that she's using blackmail to get her way, completely ignoring how you feel. You are not comfortable meeting her, and that is your right, and it is okay. You decided, despite not wanting to give her a phone call instead, and she still refused. As I said, I am concerned. She doesn't have your best interest at heart, only wants what she wants. I get that she wants to meet you, but the only thing she is doing is driving you away with her demands and blackmail. I'm so sorry. OP says, it does seem that way to me. I feel better knowing that I wasn't being blind, though certainly was being naive to think that she would just give me all the information that I was looking for. The fact that she is giving me demands makes me more certain that I don't want to meet her. The extra thing is, I may have been open to a potential IRL meeting at some point in the future if she didn't try to force me. But now she has, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confused at the minute. Depending on the age of the son, I may be willing to have some contact with him, but again, it definitely wouldn't be an IRL thing right away. I feel like everyone's answered anything that I would have said personally. She's definitely giving me insane vibes, like she's still in the headspace of when she abused you and abandoned you. The advice for parents in her situation that come to Reddit asking for help is always, take it real easy. Just take it so slow, and eventually you can get the outcome that you would like if they're willing to get there. But you do not throw the kitchen sink at them from the get-go. You are going to scare them off. Much like OP from the first story with the wedding, this woman, this biological mum of yours, doesn't realize that other people exist. Her message came across as everything that she wants. She needs this, and I'm going to use manipulation tactics in order to get what I want. I'm not thinking about you. I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you want. You need to satisfy my emotional needs. If I were you, I would be just as freaked out. I completely understand your reaction to this. That's not someone that's giving trustworthy vibes at all, and I feel like she's going to stalk you and ruin your life if you do meet up with her in person. She is not beating the crazy allegations at all. I wouldn't touch that with a 20-foot pole, OP. So no, you're not wrong at all. And now, onto the updates. Hey everyone. It's been about 9 days since I last posted, and I thought that it was time for an update. I really want to thank everyone who took the time to comment and offer advice. I've read through everything, and it's been both helpful and eye-opening. So after all the advice and some serious thinking, I decided to talk to my biological mum again, hoping that maybe if I explained myself better, she'd understand where I was coming from. Unfortunately, things went downhill fast. Instead of trying to meet me halfway, she just got more manipulative, insisting that I was being selfish for not wanting to meet her in person. She refused to give me any information unless I agreed to her terms, which was a hard no from me. I've come to realize that I was pretty naive to think that my biological family might be decent people after everything. I mean, I was removed from their care for a reason, but I guess a part of me wanted to believe that people can change. Looking back, I feel kinda dumb for even starting this whole journey. It's brought up a lot of emotions that I wasn't really prepared to deal with, and to be honest, I'm feeling pretty down about the whole situation. And as for my best friend, well, that's another disappointment. She didn't just side with my biological mum initially, she's been unsupportive throughout this whole mess. Even after I told her about the latest conversation, she couldn't really understand why I was so upset. She kept saying that I should just give them a chance and not be so harsh. It's like she doesn't get how hard this is for me, and I'm starting to feel like she never really did. It's tough, because I've always considered her one of my closest friends, but right now, I'm not sure that she's someone that I can rely on. After all of this, I decided to sit down with my adoptive parents and talk everything over with them. I hadn't really opened up to them about how deeply this was affecting me, but they were amazing as always. They were upset when they heard how my biological mum was acting, and they reassured me that none of this is my fault. They reminded me that there's a reason that I was removed from that situation, and it's not on me to fix it or make things right with people who have clearly not changed. Talking with them made me realize just how lucky I am to have them. They've been there for me every step of the way, and they made it clear that whatever happens, they are my real family. The ones who've loved and supported me no matter what. It's hard not to feel down after everything that's happened, but having them in my corner makes it a bit easier to cope. Honestly, I regret even starting this whole DNA journey. It's brought up more pain than I expected, and I can't help but wish I'd just left it in the past where it belongs. But at the same time, I'm grateful that it reminds me of how blessed I am to have my adoptive parents. They're the ones who've always been there for me, and I couldn't ask for a better family. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to focus on the people who truly care about me and let go of the rest. It's not easy, but I know that I'm on the right path. Thanks again to everyone who reached out. It's really helped me feel less alone in all of this. Take care, everyone. In regards to your best friend, I'm going to assume that she's someone with a perfectly functional family that doesn't realize how dysfunctional other people can be and how dangerous that is, and how much that hurts people. And I honestly just get so disgusted that people can even operate like that, without empathy for others that go through situations like this, and then just put the pedal to the metal and be like, no, my family's great, so everyone else out there should be great. Like, sorry, sunshine, the world's a bit of a dark place. And if I open up to you about my traumas and everything that's going wrong in my life and why, and you tell me that I shouldn't feel that way and I should go against my instincts, then I'm not going to feel too good about you. I may just remove you from my life if you're unable to conceptualize that your words are doing harm as well. Just wanted to get that one off my chest. And our final update so far, titled, My Favorite Memory. Hey everyone, I've been thinking a lot about my family today, especially after everything that's been going on lately. It's got me reminiscing about some of my best moments that I've had with them, and there's one memory that stands out. Something from when I was still a kid that I'll never forget. I must have been about 8 years old, just a couple of years after I was first adopted. It was around Christmas time, and I remember feeling nervous because it was only my second Christmas with my adoptive parents. Holidays always make me feel weird, even now. Anyways, my dad's friend owned a Christmas tree farm, and that year, my mum and dad decided to take me to pick our Christmas tree. We spent what felt like hours walking through rows and rows of trees. My parents kept asking me which one I liked best, and I remembered feeling so much pressure, like I had to pick the absolute best one or else I would ruin Christmas. But they were so patient, letting me take my time. Finally, I pointed out a tree. Honestly, it looked like every other one to me, but my parents made a huge deal out of it. My dad knelt down and started sawing, and I remember him pretending to struggle, saying, "Oh no, I think this tree might be too strong for me." My dad made me come over and help him, saying that he couldn't do it alone. So there I was, this little 8-year-old pretending to help my dad saw down the tree. Of course, I wasn't actually doing anything, but they made me feel like I was the strongest kid in the world. When the tree finally fell, my dad swept me up in his arms and spun me around saying, "We did it! We did it! Yes!" And after we got home and set up the tree, my mum brought out these old boxes full of ornaments. She told me that we were going to start a new tradition. Every year, we would each pick out one new ornament to add to the tree. Something that represented something special from that year. That night, they handed me my very first ornament, a little wooden bear holding a heart with the word family carved into it. My mum said, "This one's for you, because you made our family complete." I remember holding that ornament, feeling this huge wave of love and belonging that I'd never really felt before. At that time, I don't think it's even hit me how impactful that was, how that moment defines the way that I look at myself today. I was part of a loving family. I was their family. Every Christmas after that, we'd pull out that little wooden bear and hang it up first. It became our tradition. The reason I've been thinking about this memory today is because it's a reminder of how lucky I am to have the parents that I do. They didn't just give me a home, they gave me a sense of belonging and they gave me love. Even with everything that's been going on, I know that I've got something really special, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Anyways, thanks for letting me share this. I just needed to remind myself how amazing my family is, and I hope it brings a smile to your face like it does to mine. Thank you for sharing that, OP. That was honestly beautiful. In the comments, Electron Janitor says, OP is very thoughtful and self-aware. Somewhere there's a group of nurture psychologists doing handstands and fist-bumping each other. This actually means nothing in terms of nurture versus nature, because had a different child gone through the exact same experiences as OP, they may have ended up with long-term mental health issues. It's just proof that some people can adapt easily as long as they're given proper love and care after being through something traumatic, not that all people can. And that's literally the whole point of the debate. It isn't nature or nurture, it's both. This kid just had a really great nature on top of receiving good nurturing. My therapist told me that she believes that one day we'll discover a resiliency gene that helps kids recover from trauma better. I don't remember much from my childhood either, and actually can't picture things in my head. I wonder if that helps. It is hard to fight the bonus family fantasies, especially because my adoptive parents died early, 49 and 51, from medical conditions. I was 19 when Dad died and 25 for Mum. It's helpful to remember that meeting your birth family will most likely end up in an awkward situation at best, and this kind of crap at worst. But the what-ifs are nagging. I'm 45 now, and we still put my first Christmas ornament on the tree. I really don't have anything else to add to this one after all of that. I'm just so grateful that OP has such a loving and amazing family that, continues that Christmas tradition with them. I think they made the right decision to not reach out to them, and I hope that OP's what-ifs are now answered and they will not at all contact that biological family. This is another one of those stories where I break out into the dramatic reading, I love these kinds of stories so much. Thank you for sharing it with us, OP. I very much appreciate that. I found out my sister slept with my fiancé, and I'm not sorry about what I did after. Posted by Constant Sun 2154. 30-year-old woman here. I have a sister who's just a year older than me. We have always had such a good relationship, so finding out about this one hurts. She might as well have just stabbed me in my heart. And on top of that, I've been with my fiancé since high school, and we've always been with each other through thick and thin. We were going to get married in a few months. I have no idea why on earth they did this to me. What's even worse was that our mum knew, and out of fear of getting involved, my sister apparently begged her not to say a word. She didn't tell me anything. Thankfully, my dad wasn't having it, and he spilled the beans to me. I've never been so angry in my life. Not only did I kick my fiancé out and throw out his stuff, some of it in the trash, but I decided to hurt my sister in another way. Well, why not do the same for my fiancé? That's simple. She's my sister. We've always had a good relationship until she decided to ruin it months before my big day, which I allowed her to be a bridesmaid in. You don't do that to anyone, let alone your sister, your blood. My sister is big on gardening, so when she lost her dog, she made a garden for him. I knocked on her door, she didn't know that I knew, and of course I played nice. I moved on to what she did with my fiancé, and I slightly damaged her garden. I honestly just crushed a couple of flowers. Am I sorry? No. Her excuse sent me over the edge. It just happened isn't a reason. Sleeping with my fiancé just happened like that, I guess. I told her that I didn't want her speaking to me anymore, and that I also didn't want our mum to speak to me. My fiancé won't say a word since I threatened to call the police if he ever went near me again. Yeah, I made my sister cry and scream at me, but I genuinely feel like I should be the one crying. She knew how important getting married was to me, and now I can't experience that. Pair that with the fact that I had to hear this from my dad, not my bum excuse of a sister or fiancé. Hell, even my own mother didn't say a word to me. It's like she lets my sister run her. Screw you, Tia, and screw you, Logan. If they ever see this, I would be absolutely delighted. In the comments, TeamInc0220 says, cut them off. Your sister has no respect or love for you. In fact, it's probably jealousy. I would move away and have nothing more to do with them. Family that swirl around in this swill are really dysfunctional. I would be gone. Family are some of the worst betrayers of people, do the most damage, so I would go no contact with all of them. This is one of those rare instances where it's appropriate to blame the affair partner just as much as well, like your own sister. Damn. I'm so sorry, girl, but you can still get married and do all the things that you want, just not with this horribly fake person that was in your life. Take your time to grieve. This was an assault on all ends of your trust, but consider it time saved for the right people later on. I'm curious on the details. Was it a one-time thing? Did they care for each other? If this was me, I would be making a public Facebook post so that everyone knows why my wedding got called off. I can't believe your own mother would do this. The woman who brought you into this world betraying you by helping your sister keep this secret is despicable. Thank God that you have your father. I'd be outing my sister, ex, mum, all of them, and then turn off post notifications and move on like nothing ever happened. Here's what you should write. Wedding is off. If you want to know why, ask Logan or Tia. Unless they're too busy having sex in my bed again, in which case ask my mother, who knew about it and hid it from me. Oh, god damn! I want you to write that, OP. I want you to write that exact Facebook post. That would be piping hot tea. Oh my god, I need to see that. Of course, I am so sorry that this happened to you. As everyone else has said here, you didn't deserve that. No one ever deserves this to happen to them. And you should pursue as much justice as you need in this situation. I want to see you go full bore. I'm praying on the downfall of Tia and Logan. And the fact that OP's not using fake names for this is a real story. I choose to believe it's real. I do think it's real. And if you guys know who Tia and Logan are, make sure to give them an extra special pat on the shoulders for their efforts. Back up to the post, there is an edit. Since many people keep bringing this up, I'm upset that I lost the relationship that I've always put 100% into. I was excited to get married, of course, but then this news came out. It really hurt me. I didn't want to believe it at first. I almost thought that my dad was pulling my leg. Later turned out to be true, and I swear I have trust issues now. I would be too, honestly. I'd only be trusting your dad from now on. Edit 2. Thanks again for all the suggestions, y'all. It's helping me feel more confident in exposing them. I'm just a bundle of nerves right now because I know that shit's gonna hit the fan again. When I do so, I'll try to my best to come up with an update. I mean, it's the least y'all deserve. Last edit. When I say I decided to hurt her, it's because I kinda ruined something so meaningful to her. I feel like for most people, besides on here, that would be a bit far. That's just how I feel though. I understand that it's not what you guys wanted. Clearly worked a bit though, since she thought that I was so damn psychotic for that. Like I said, I don't feel sorry about hurting her that way. And now, onto the update. Hey everyone, seems like my other post has been deleted. Thanks again for the comments and support. I found out quite a bit. To start off, I did expose her and my ex on my story. I unblocked them both to tag them. Shout out to one of the commenters who wrote down what I should say. I saved it and wrote it, but added some other words of my own. My ex actually blocked me after he saw my story. I sent my Reddit post to my sister after. At the time, she didn't see, but I got a call from my ex's mum. She was furious about everything, but she asked me how I was holding up and if I've heard the bad news. My heart sunk a little because I honestly couldn't bear to hear any more bad news. I asked her what she was talking about and she said, "So you haven't?" I said no and asked her to tell me. My sister's pregnant. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, it gets better. It always gets better, doesn't it? Though this plotline's not as insane as It Ends With Us. Good movie. So apparently he told her in an attempt to make her chill out on my sister. I didn't want to hear any more, so I told her that I needed to hang up the phone. Thankfully, she accepted because I literally burst into tears 2 seconds later. After 5 minutes of crying, my sister responded to my story in text with the Reddit post link. She was texting me in all caps, begging me to take it down. If I wasn't so upset, I would have laughed a little bit, but I just sat there watching her blow up my phone. I got even angrier when she said, "I'm coming over and I'm telling Mum that you're spreading my business online." All right, you big baby. I still never responded though. I felt frozen. Felt like letting it go. 30 minutes later, she's trying to break my door down, so I opened it in a fit of rage, and I started screaming all kinds of shit at her. She kept screaming at me to take it down, and I told her that it's gonna stay up for as long as I want it to. She kept telling me that she didn't deserve online hate, and she even tried telling me that she's always been there for me through everything, and that she would have forgiven me if it was the other way around. Bullshit. Bullshit. That is when I punched her. A small part of me felt guilty, as I'm not the fighting type, and that was probably evident in my last post, but she retaliated by saying, "It's not my fault he was tired of you." Oh! And that's when I told her that I hope that she ends up like her dog, and that she deserves every bit of hate that she's getting for ruining my relationship. I even apologized for not ruining her entire garden and her stupid face at first. I know I'm wrong for saying this, but the entire time she was playing the victim. She called me evil and told me to rot in hell. Kept saying that I was punishing her over a mistake. I said, "You have no idea what you've put me through, and I know that you would have done the same thing if you were the victim." She kept crying and insulting me because all she's ever done was support me through everything, and I had the nerve to hurt her and allow strangers to bash her on the internet. I told her that she deserved it, and I don't want her talking to me ever again, and if she comes near me, I'm calling the police. She kept saying that I was being extremely unfair, and that she said she was sorry in her texts, but I wasn't having it. I told her to tell Mum that I'm not talking to her again either. She asked me if I was really going to cut her off like that, and I just wished her good luck with her unwanted child and told her to go home. That was the last time that she walked off my porch. OP, you should tell her how you really feel. Anyway, I had to clean up my favorite vase because she smashed it, but it doesn't even matter. At least they're out of my life. However, it's weird how sad I feel now. It's for my own good, but damn, I'll never experience the bond that we had again. On the bright side, it seems like I've dodged 2 bullets. Thanks again though, everyone. Maybe I do need therapy. Last edit to say that my dad called not too long ago, asking me to take every post down because, according to my brother, my witch sister is bawling her eyes out over mean people on the internet. As if I'm taking anything down. My dad's pissed about her pregnancy, but my mum continues to defend her by saying that we need to chill out on her just a little bit. This is why I'm not talking to her. Thanks again though, everyone. I'm exhausted and I need to worry about other things. In the comments, Love Being an Asshole says, don't we all, why does she keep telling you that she supported you? Providing support to a family member is not some kind of free pass to screw said family member's fiancé. I think it's a typical narcissist behavior saying, but I supported you. Screw Tia and screw Logan. Karma keeps receipts and I hope she comes for both of them. Classic narcissist move to try and shift the blame to you and manipulate you like you are not the victim here. Sorry, but your sister is a selfish witch. Do not take it down. Let the world know who she really is. Punishing her over a mistake? Seriously, like, come on. She pretty much uprooted your life and destroyed your relationships along the way. She knew what she was doing before she cheated, and after, she likely felt guilty about it, but that doesn't change the fact that She did it. She needs to deal with the consequences even if she wanted to start rebuilding a relationship with you. Clearly, your sister is more focused on her own image than actually feeling sorry. I doubt she felt guilty. That's why she hasn't shown any remorse or apologized. Just expected OP to rug sweep, and then went so far as to say that it's not my fault that Logan was tired of you. Her sister is a disgusting piece of work. You can say that again. And now, fresh off the press, the last update. I've officially decided to go low contact with my dad today. Surprisingly, he wasn't that upset about it. However, he is still on team take down the posts, and that's why I made my decision. My mom wants nothing to do with me because if I wasn't going to respect the family, then there's no point trying to get to you. Wow, it's almost like that's what I wanted. My cousin and my ex's sister have been supporting me. Apparently my sister has had meltdown after meltdown because more people are slowly finding out about the affair, not only in person, but on the internet. She's actually got into it with my cousin online, and according to my cousin, my sister keeps asking her to tell her to take the posts down because she's sorry, and she felt pressured into doing what she did. Last I even heard about my ex was from his sister. She told me that they did speak, and although he's not ready for a child, he doesn't feel comfortable leaving my pregnant sister on her own. He also wants me to stop what I'm doing, but oh well, they are made for each other. Anyway, I've surprisingly been feeling a bit better thanks to my cousin and my new sister, as I like to call my ex's sister now. I've actually gotten some good sleep, still considering therapy too. A very tiny part of me feels bad for exposing my sister and my ex, and I'll always miss the relationship that I've had with them, even despite my last encounter with my sister. But they've hurt me, and it's what they deserve. If they are not taking it well, then that's their problem. Thanks everyone once again. In the comments, SnooWords4839 says, "Leave your posts up. Sister deserves to be called out, and her friends need to know that she may sleep with their boyfriends." OP says, "Speaking of her friends, I actually have no idea what they think about this, but I can assume that they've found out, of course. My sister is not taking this well, so I'm assuming that they're pestering her with questions too. Not taking this well? She isn't the victim here. Keep those posts up." It's weird how your mom is scolding you about respecting your family, but was totally fine with your sister sleeping with your fiancé. These people will do anything to quote-unquote keep the peace, even if it means neglecting and enabling shit like this. Pretty stupid, honestly. Hey man, once there's a grandbaby on the way, that means that blood, in fact, is thicker than water. But water is wider than blood. So I know who wins the rock, paper, scissors here. If your parents want to choose sides on this one, I guess they're more than welcome to, but, they're just not going to be a part of your life at all. And from their actions, it very much seems like they're prepared not to be in your life anymore. That's a really harsh reality to have to deal with, and I empathize with you a lot, OP. That wouldn't be too easy, I'd imagine, because I wouldn't personally want my parents cutting me out of their lives. But if something like this were to happen, I would feel like I need to respect myself and do what is best for my own mental health. It's a completely shit situation to have to find yourself in and then have those closest to you defending an abuser, basically. A manipulative, narcissistic piece of shit of a sister. But life throws us curveballs all the time, and I wish you the best in dealing with this one going forward. As always, thank you for sharing your story with us. I really appreciated it. Our next post is by a deleted user, titled, "Am I the asshole here for being resentful of my younger sister and telling my parents that I will remember their answer when we have to decide who takes care of them after they retire?" I'm seeing a trend in today's stories. I am male 23. My parents have treated my sister and I very differently when we were in our respective time in high school. Here are the main differences. I went to a public school and she got to go to a private school that costs more money than my college. I was on house arrest because my SAT score was below a 1500 and she could go out even though she barely got over a 1000. I dormed for 3 years and they want to get her an apartment for college. I worked after school for my parents in high school and she gets to spend on my parents' credit card. I had to justify every expense, even with my own money, and she never has to, even though she's using their money. I got a phone at 13, she got it at 8. I am resentful of her. I hate how she always gets everything that I had to work hard for, and their excuse is always that it's different. Today I found out that my parents are getting her a new car for her 18th birthday. I got a used car when I was 21 as a shut-up gift because I stayed home during COVID, and she's getting a new car at 18. I guess the resentment in me boiled up, and I just asked them if they hated me. They asked me what's wrong, and I just went over everything and how we were treated differently. And they gave me the same old excuse that it's different. So I told them to their face, I'll remember this when you need someone to take care of you when you're old. You can ask her, not me. I then got in my car and drove for hours with my phone on airplane mode. Am I the asshole here? I kind of feel like I am since I'm the oldest male, and it's my duty in my culture to take care of my parents and siblings. But at the same time, I just feel like I've been given the short end of the stick. I paid for every cent of my existence in high school, and she never had to. I just needed somewhere to vent to. Edit, I am not the affair baby, they never missed an event, parent-teacher conferences, etc. In the comments, Church of Dan says, not the asshole. Your parents have created this divide and these extreme differences in how they deal with their children. They have been unfair and, honestly, shitty parents. You should stick to your guns. They made their choice, and their choice can take care of them while you deal with you. OP replies, but otherwise they are amazing parents. Never raised a finger against us. Always came to my sport events and all. That is why I'm conflicted. That is, as gently as possible, the bare minimum. Not abusing your kids is the bare minimum. Going to their events and showing interest in them is the bare minimum. Could have had me fooled. You can acknowledge that they did the bare minimum very well, while also acknowledging that they failed as parents when it came to you feeling loved. Amazing parents don't favor one child over the other so egregiously as your parents have. Amazing parents don't make their child question their love by favoring one child over the other. So when other people would notice them, they showed up. Sorry dude, that's almost 100% why they were there. That's why they'll show up at your wedding but won't help you with it at all, while spending weeks and months and tens of thousands on your sister's wedding if she can find some poor naive sucker to marry her. Do you live at home? Whenever they ask for your help, tell them to ask your sister. OP replies, unfortunately I do. I tell them to, but their excuse is that she's busy with school and all. She does help them around the house, but I help them more with their businesses. Well then stop working for them and get a job elsewhere. You won't be able to move on as long as you're working for them. Just wait a while. Show them the cold shoulder. Only the bare minimum when it comes to every communication and help. Let them feel like they messed up. They need to experience it. When they want to talk, sit down with them and keep asking why. Why is it different? Keep asking until they explain themselves. If it's like why people I know, it's probably because they expect more from you. You are the son, you will take over the business, etc. She'll just marry. Is that possible? OP says, I think the last part is the main reason. No, I don't think that you're the asshole for being resentful of your younger sister. I agree with the comments that your parents only show up when they're going to be judged for not being there. Why would they put effort into you in private when you're going to be, a strong, independent person? But I'd imagine they're going to be pretty upset in the future when you're a strong, independent person and you don't talk to them anymore. Because that's the way they raised you, and their goal was achieved. But I'm gonna be shocked if in the future this doesn't get resolved and they go, why don't you ever call us? Why don't you ever visit? Why don't you want to see us anymore? And I'd imagine if you were honest about it, about them favoring your sister in everything and raising you to be an independent person, they'd be like, well, that doesn't excuse you not visiting us and not showing us love. Sorry, I've been watching one too many TikToks. But that's my extrapolation of the situation in the future and how your relationship is going to be with them. I don't think you're the asshole for being resentful. I wish your sister the best of luck looking after them when they retire. And now, onto the update. So after 3 hours of driving around and talking to myself and seeing comments here, I decided to confront my parents directly. It had to be done. What they meant from that is that they expect more from me since I've always been more self-reliant from early on, and that my sister can marry a rich guy or girl, and society won't judge her, but they will judge me for not being successful. They know that I'm capable of more than my sister, but they don't say it directly to her. Yes, I did misbehave a lot, but not enough to get me into too much trouble. I have never had to really study for anything, and this bit me in college, and I just needed tutoring versus actual classes. They said that they were even impressed after I dropped out due to poor grades the first time around in college. I was able to pull myself up and end up in a better college and a good-paying job without a degree. They told me that I always found a way out of a bad situation and into a better place. They also explained that their financial circumstances were vastly different, and the fact that I worked for my mum early on in her business was a blessing, as they always had someone to rely on, and they never thanked me for that. They offered me two choices. I can either take the amount they think is the difference between how much they spent on me, and I could use it for one of three things: a down payment on my first house in addition to whatever I'd already saved up, investment into my first business, or put it into a rental property once I qualify for the VA loan in addition to whatever I have currently saved. They don't want to give it to me directly for two main reasons. It is a lot of money, and I am very quick to spend. ADHD moments. They admitted to making a lot of first-time parent mistakes. I got brown parents to actually apologize, and I'm kinda surprised. That's a crazy sentence, OP. About the whole inheritance question, they plan to leave most of the investment properties to me and most of the jewelry and other stuff to my sister. It would have been an equal split. They asked me if I was still okay with them getting my sister a new car, and I said yes, but she has to dorm in college just like I had to. Overall, nothing major happened. No burning bridges or anything. Edit: by getting her an apartment, it means to get her one to rent, not buy. Sorry for the confusion. In the comments, so they actually didn't really do any favors to their daughter either. She will marry a rich guy? What the hell? Do they even really care about their children? I agree. Rich does not mean faithful or loving or non-abusive. Also, they don't seem to think that she'll amount to anything on her own, so they're basically trying to make her as attractive as possible to rich suitors to lock them in ASAP. What if she decides to marry beneath her for love? How will they react then? When people say things like, she can just marry rich, it tells me that they basically don't give a damn about her personality, skills, or potential, like, at all. Do they care about what she does in college or how well she does it? Or is she just there to pursue an MRS degree? Are they going to be upset if she decides that she'd rather not get married at all? Honestly, it feels like they don't care about either of their kids much, aside from what expectations they can fulfill. And that's presumably why they funded her expensive private school, so she can learn to act rich, make rich social connections, and prepare to land a rich husband. Meanwhile, their son is being boxed into living their way, with success as they define it. Well, you know what's good, OP? At least they didn't beat the shit out of you as a kid, hey? All the neglect that you went through and everything, man, it is made so much better since they didn't lay a finger on you, huh? I really don't know what to think of this resolution because, they admitted that, oh yeah, we know that our daughter ain't shit. She's not going anywhere unless she has a rich husband. We don't like her like that. And also, yeah, we abused you. We're first-time parents. Sorry about that. Anyway, here's a bunch of money. Does that make it better? Oh, man. I don't know how I'd feel if I was OP in this situation. I'd be like, I guess this resolves some of the problems and makes things fair and equal, but man, you guys are not the people I thought you were. Oh my god, you are a bit soulless, you two. Anyway, thanks for sharing the story with us, OP. That was a delight. Would I be the asshole if I broke up with my girlfriend because she found God and won't stop trying to force her religion onto me? So I've been dating my girlfriend Laura for about 2 years now. Laura has always told me that she was an atheist. I am as well, so it was pretty easy to just not have any religious discussions at home. Well, a couple of months ago, Laura started going to church services with her friend Sarah. Sarah is a friend of Laura's from childhood, and their difference in religious views had always been a point of friction, but Laura had wanted to ease that friction by going to a few services with Sarah. Well, After a couple of weeks, I noticed a pretty drastic change in Laura. She started to reference God more often and even had a Bible in her nightstand. She got a cross necklace and started to not only go to Sunday services, but to some events the church held during the week with Sarah. Again, all of this was fine with me. I basically had Sunday mornings to myself in the house so I could play games and just do whatever. The issue came when Sarah made some comments one Sunday morning about how I need to come with them. I politely declined. I'd been turning down church invites from my super religious family for years, so it's a reflex at this point. They left, but later that night Laura and I were talking and she started pressuring me to go to the church with her and Sarah. I'd been through conversations like this before. Again, my upbringing, and I made it clear to her that while I have no problem with her newfound faith, I would not be sharing in it. She gave up, but was very cold towards me for a few days before she apologized and we made up. Well, a few weeks later, Sarah asks me again, and I give her a polite but firm no, as this is starting to annoy me. Laura came back from church and seemed in a really good mood. She made me my favorite meal, and we talked about her day, and it was nice. And then abruptly, she started weeping and telling me how she was terrified of me spending an eternity in hell, and how I need to find God like she did because she didn't want to lose me to Satan. At this point, I was fed up with it. I didn't escape my abusive religious family just to have it happen all over to me again. Laura's been cold with me ever since, and every time I try to talk to her, she says, "There's nothing to discuss until you are willing to go to church." So at this point, I think I might just need to break up with her. I feel bad because if we break up, then I'm moving out, I am not on the lease, so Laura will be stuck paying in full for her place without me. But I cannot stand the idea of living with her after we break up. I just want as clean a break as I can get here. Would I be the arsehole for just breaking up with her and leaving? In the comments, Funky Vegetables says, "Not the arsehole. You can't just make a huge change like that and coerce others into doing the same. Leave, friend." Not the arsehole. You get to make your own decisions. For church and anything else. Real dick move on her part. Nothing to discuss until you come to church? Bye, Felicia. Yeah. Girl played hardball and then expected nice food and maybe some sex to make it work. The old missionary conversion, huh? A missionary does their best work while in missionary, that's for sure. It's crazy how manipulative religious superstition makes people. She even faked being in a super good mood to try and blindside him with happiness. Reminds me of the speech that Stan gives at the end of the Mormons episode in South Park. They just use fake kindness as a recruiting tool. Dum 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 dum. Not the asshole. Nope. She made her decision, and you have nothing to discuss until you are willing to go to church. Jesus can help her pay her rent and bills. That doesn't mean you have carte blanche to be a dingus. It just means that you have a healthy boundary, and this person has reached a point where they've lost the ability to respect you as a person who can make their own decisions about their religion. As someone who escaped a fundy, evangelical religious family, you are not being a bad person for standing up for your decision to live free of religion. Your partner is free to pick her path, but if she's unwilling to extend the same courtesy to you, get the hell out. You can't save the quote-unquote saved. Not the arsehole. I am born and raised atheist. My significant other from a Catholic family. I would attend church with him on special occasions like weddings, funerals, and christenings only. I prepare most of my meals, so once a year, on Ash Wednesday, I make him a vegetarian meal. We never force our beliefs on each other, and that is why it works. I never make fun of him, and he never tells me that I'm going to hell. Unless we're joking, I call him Bible-munching Christian, and he calls me infidelical pagan scum. Love wins. Forcing one's beliefs onto others is not ethical, not Christian, and is plainly wrong. If he tried to shove a Bible down my throat, I'd be gone in a heartbeat. Info. Did you move in together with the agreement to pay rent together? Or is it her place already? You would be the asshole if you leave without some kind of discussion about rent. You were totally within your rights to end the relationship. OP replies, Laura had already had this place for a while before I showed up. Basically, her first roommate flaked on her, and we decided that it was a good time as any for me to move in and split expenses. I suspect she won't have a hard time getting a roommate within the first couple of months. Not the asshole. I don't like to advocate for breaking up when I don't know both sides of the story, but religious differences are a massive deal breaker for most people. If she's refusing to even discuss it, there is literally nothing that you can do. As for moving out, if you don't want to be an asshole about that, then you can try and be as helpful as possible. Could she get a roommate? When is her lease up? Will she be able to afford it? You could agree to pay a few months' rent to give her time to adjust or find a new place. OP says, she has a few friends that I know that would be interested. She makes much more than I do, so while I feel bad about making her pay the full cost of the place once I'm out, I know that she can afford it for a few months. I cannot afford to pay any expenses there while I'm also paying to live elsewhere. I make much less than she does. For me, this is one of those situations where people say in the comments down below, well, if the genders were switched, you wouldn't be asking her to pay for the rent because he's abusive. He knows that she has trauma from her very much religious family, and yet he still chose to do missionary conversion on her. Do you know how abusive that is? Don't you remember that story where the husband was really violent with her and brought his whole family in and screamed at her face? Do you want her paying for that man's lifestyle? So with those things in mind, for me, this is very much an abusive relationship. OP's partner is a complete piece of shit. She knows what he's like, she knows how their relationship operates, she's well aware of his thoughts on religion. These people saying, you'd be an asshole if you leave without some discussion about the rent. Is that just because he's a man? If your partner is abusing you and making you feel uncomfortable and constantly pressuring you, you're well within your rights to not pay their rent. Jesus. If you communicate a boundary throughout your entire relationship, and your partner willingly understands that and agrees to it, and then oversteps that boundary intentionally, they've waived any rights to you being kind to them, to you paying for anything for them. Screw them. They know what they signed up for. They knew what their actions were going to cause. That is such terrible advice, putting him down, saying that he should pay the rent. Well, what a disagreement. No. And now, onto the update. So I'd like to update everyone on the situation since my original post. I broke up with Laura a few days after the post. At first, she seemed to accept it. I moved out a couple of days later. We agreed that I'd pay for half of the month's expenses to help her out. Another friend of hers moved in a few weeks later, so she isn't in any financial hardship over this. The breakup didn't really hit me for a few days. Then it all came crashing down, and I took a few days off of work just to play some video games and hang out with some friends that I hadn't had time for recently. All in all, I'm doing okay. I've run into a few mutual friends of Laura and I, and they all seem to understand why I did what I did. I'll probably stop hanging out with most of our mutual social circle though, as most of them were more her friends than mine. Though the initial breakup was relatively amicable about a week ago, she started drunk texting me, begging me to find God so we could be together again. Cringe. Insanely cringe behavior, Jesus. She'd also send me long paragraphs of good memories from when we were together. Sarah would also text on Laura's behalf, trying to encourage me to come to the church and make things right. Go to hell, Sarah. I blocked them both for my own sanity. Laura's probably just now feeling the breakup and is acting irrationally, and I don't blame her. I had serious urges to call her a lot too. You guys were right. I don't feel like I was the asshole after spending some serious time thinking it over. Thanks for the advice, everyone. Take care. In the comments, Seeds5 says, her and Sarah can now hook up and then get kicked out of the church. And OP says, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not trying to bash Sarah or Laura here. I just happen to have heard from a couple of people that they suspect that Sarah might be super closeted. Apparently when she first went off to college and broke away from the church for a short time, she was seen clubbing and making out with a few different girls. Then she came back home and went back to being involved in the church. Sarah is also spending a lot of time over there now. So a few people suspect that Sarah has a thing for Laura, and she tried to break us up in order to get her. It all sounds crazy to me, but just plausible enough to be real. Either way, what's done is done, and regardless of whether or not it's true or just juicy gossip, it doesn't change anything for me. Your comment just made me think of that. Quotes, I've run into a few mutual friends of Laura and I, and they all seem to understand why I did what I did. Thank God, no pun intended, that Laura and/or Sarah haven't tried to turn friends against you. This really seems like it's for the best, and hopefully Laura will find her peace. Keep trucking along, OP. Well, she already found God, though. That's crazy, man, but has she ever tried DMT? Quick, Jamie, pull that up for OP. God, you ever seen gorillas and seen chimpanzees? They just, shredded as shit, man. My God, they could, rip my arm off. That's crazy. Oh my God, imagine being in an MMA cage fight with one of those things. The reason you broke up with her was because she kept bugging you to find God. It's kind of funny that she's still texting come to the church. Wasn't that the reason you broke up with her? Drunk people are not exactly rational. In her mind, the problem isn't that she's pushing her religion on him, but that he doesn't yet grasp the truth. If only he did, then he'd come around. If we ignore whether religion is rational or not, she is not being irrational here either. Imagine legitimately believing that your significant other is going to spend an eternity in hell being tortured. If you don't try to save them, you're an asshole. Pushing religion is not a dick move from this perspective. It's the only compassionate way to behave for a true believer. P.S. I'm an atheist. Quote, Laura has been cold with me ever since, and every time I try to talk to her, she says there's nothing to discuss until you're willing to go to the church. What a shitty thing to do. This is what emotional abuse looks like. She's using her affection like a carrot on a string. She's punishing him for not doing what she wants him to by completely removing her affection and by taking away his voice. She won't let him talk to her unless he agrees. It's the way that a parent punishes a child. You can have this back when you've earned it. This just compounds what I said before. Laura is an incredibly emotionally abusive person. I'm sure she didn't start out that way, but Sarah definitely influenced her, and then going to the church with Sarah taught her what she needed to do to you. And then Sarah being closeted and wanting to take Laura from you just makes even more sense as to her doubling and tripling down on the influence on Laura. Genuinely, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, OP. You didn't deserve this at all. You deserve so much better. But you did dodge a bullet. You dodged multiple bullets here. Genuinely imagine if you'd gone through marriage and multiple kids with Laura, and then this happened. I don't even want to think about that. That is a dumpster fire. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I very much appreciate that. Our next post is by user Familiar Voice 6271, titled, Am I the asshole here for telling my boyfriend that I'm not getting his name tattooed on me? I get matching tattoos, but each other's names? I really can't do it. A tattoo is permanent unless you want to pay more money to get it removed. So to me, it is permanent. Me and my boyfriend have been together for a year or so, and he asked me if we should get each other's names tattooed on each other, and I immediately said, yeah, no thank you. He was like, why? What's wrong with getting each other's names? What's wrong with one little bump of heroin, man? Come on, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a fun time. I'm sorry, but no. I told him how I refuse to put anyone's name on me if it isn't me or my twin sister, and only my twin sister, because she's the only person who has been in my life full years of living. Or my kid's name. He said stuff like, this could actually show our love towards one another. I told him that we can still love each other very much without having each other's names permanently on our skin. I just feel like it's a stretch, and you never know what could happen in the future. It's just a waste of money if we end up breaking up. Then came, my parents are still married and happy, and they got each other's names tattooed. Yeah, I get that, but I'm not doing it. It's just too far. I respect anyone who chooses that path, but I can't do it. My boyfriend took it as I think that me and him will break up soon, and I don't love him like he loves me. But that isn't true. I just don't want something to be stuck on me when that person that I thought I'd love forever turns out to be the one that I no longer love. Am I the asshole here, or are my reasons valid? Edit, I'm 22 and he's 25. In the comments, Lulu McGrew says, tell him a good way for him to show you that he loves you would be to stop pressuring you to do something that you don't want to do. Oh, he's not concerned about him demonstrating his feelings. He's only concerned that she does something that she doesn't want to do in order to jump through some imaginary hoop that he's created for her to prove her love. Coming from experience, once you give in to something like this to calm the anxious and controlling partner, they just move on to the next hoop. Not the asshole. The fact that he doesn't respect the fact that you don't want to do this is a great demonstration of why you shouldn't do it. Jesus Christ, my parents are still married and happy and they got each other's names tattooed. I'm pissed off with that line. 25 years old talking like that is crazy. He has never met a dysfunctional family in his life. He's never seen the Twitter threads of terrible tattoos and why you shouldn't make rushed decisions like this. He's never left the comfort of his own bedroom, it seems. I'm just gonna go out there and do the typical Reddit response. This is someone that you slowly break off from, OP. This is not someone that you stick with. Sure, he can change. You guys can change together. Maybe this is a temporary thing for him, but this much pressure, this hard, a year into the relationship is crazy. You're only 22, you can do better for yourself. There's better men out there. I'd just chuck him out. And now, onto the update. So I posted this a while ago. A summary for the ones who don't know. My boyfriend asked me if I'd get his name tattooed on me, which I said no to because it's just too much, which he felt meant that I didn't think that we were going to last, and that I didn't love him. But anyways, we are now not together anymore. I broke up with him like 3 days ago. He was showing lots of signs of toxicity, which many warned me about. I'm sure he was talking to another woman, so yeah, had to call it quits. Now I'm single and living great. In the comments, Corporal Punishment 23 says, reminds me of one of the most teachable moments I experienced in the Marine Corps boot camp. Every evening as the training day is wrapping up, the recruits get a bit of personal time to write letters, polish boots, etc. Then everyone gets in line in front of their bunks, and the DI on duty will ask anyone if they have any personal problems to report. Guy across from me says, "Sir, this recruit needs some sandpaper, sir." He has a tattoo that reads Anna on his shoulder blade, and an open letter that he's just received sitting on his footlocker. The lesson, don't put anyone else's name on your body. Oh, no. Sir, he needs some sandpaper, sir. I love these kinds of military stories. Crazy Snack Girl says, I'm a tattoo artist. The amount of people who come in wanting their partner's names inked when they've been dating less than a year is insane. What's worse is that 90% of the time, one of them is clearly being coerced and guilted into it. If I think for 1 second that someone isn't enthusiastic and committed to getting a tattoo, I'll refuse to work on them. It's not worth it. I'm autistic, and after wearing a ring for years, decided to get a tattoo on my ring finger instead. Sensory issues. The artist had a very serious tone change during the consultation when she asked, "Does he know that you're doing this?" And I realized how serious this topic really is. Yes, he knew, it was my idea, he knew the reasons why and supported it, and we had been together 16 years, married 14 years at that point. OP is 1000% right in their reasons of not wanting to get matching names. I agree with them fully. That is clingy and toxic as hell to want your partner to not only tattoo their name on you, but only after a year of dating. I've been with my husband 6 years, and I can't decide still on a little matching tattoo. Yeah, that's like 10-year anniversary shit. Do it once you've been married and living with each other for a while. Less likely to regret it. Our next post is by user Lonely4Help, titled, Navy's wife's view of infidelity is troubling. I, 30 male, work for a defense contractor, which is how I met my wife Carol, 31 female. We had worked together for a couple of years before dating, and after dating for only 6 months, she proposed to me, and we just celebrated our 2nd wedding anniversary. Carol's a US Navy LCDR. Her role is mostly land-based with some special sea duty deployments, short-term. I'm friends with several of the officers and families in her department, and we are very social, like an extended family. Most of her department is on a 3-month deployment with a carrier group, the longest time we have spent apart since we started dating. They've been gone for over a month, and 3 of the wives of her officers and I have been running every morning, and we sometimes go out for drinks and keep each other company. Most are far from any family or longtime friends. Last weekend, we were at a local bar, and Mary, 25 female, who's married to one of my wife's junior officers, Tom, got really drunk. And at the end of the night, I took away her keys as she was determined to drive home. I end up taking her home. They live in on-base housing, and I walked/carried her to the door. I got her door open, and she tried to get me to come in. She grabbed me and started kissing me, and asked me to stay. I got out of there as quickly as I could. The next morning, she called and apologized for the night before, and asked if I could take her back to the bar to retrieve her car. I picked her up, and on the way to the bar, she said that she was just feeling lonely, but that she was attracted to me and said we could help each other out while our spouses were away. I told her that I was flattered, but I could never cheat on my wife. Mary said that it wasn't exactly cheating, but I shut the conversation down. Carol and I had a FaceTime chat where I told her about the event and asked if I needed to reach out to Tom and tell him, or if this was something that my wife would rather do. She gave a big sigh and looked sad, but said that we should just leave it be for now. She said sadly this was not unusual and happens on both sides. She's unofficially reprimanded one of her officers for engaging with a non-com since being on board. She doesn't want to tell Tom because it would distract him from his duties and cause stress, since there's nothing that he can really do about it right now. And secondly, it could start a conversation that might force her to take action as his commanding officer if he is in an open relationship or simply knows she is cheating. Her group must maintain a high security clearance, and this could jeopardize his clearance. Then she said something that I can't stop worrying about. As long as Mary is discreet and it doesn't affect their relationship when Tom returns, then she sees it as no harm, no foul. She went on to say that if she were Tom, she would rather not know as long as we were happy. I don't know if this was her giving me permission to cheat without coming out and saying it, or worse, is she saying that she could justify cheating on me as long as it didn't directly affect me? It bothers me that we can't talk in person for another 8 weeks until she gets back. In the comments, EveryThought5834 says, "Your wife is wrong. This could blow up and maybe affect her command. Cover-ups blow up. Look at what is occurring with the Coast Guard. Look at what's all over our news with the VP Harris and her husband. Look at Erin Ward in Omaha. She doesn't want to put herself in that position in which NCIS, DODIG, or others, including Congress, come looking. Not worth it. Someone files a complaint, and it's over for your wife. Quid pro quo. You need to have that hard conversation with your wife. You did the right thing by bringing it to her attention. However, Tom will surely find out in due time. They always find out. Ask the people here on this subreddit. Actually, in the military, a lot of them don't get to find out. NCIS doesn't get involved in adultery cases. They focus on real criminal things. They will, however, get involved if there is prostitution going on, like back in the day at Subbase in early 2001 to 2005. It was a mess, and I'm not sure if it ever came out to civilian light. If it isn't a case of high-profile cheating, a lot of the times the military will try to cover it up, as their needs matter more. Back up to the post, there's a mini update. I woke up this morning to an email from my wife, and now I'm late for work, but I just don't care. The email started off with how I should deal with Mary. She asked me not to say anything to anyone about what happened, and I should continue to be cordial with Mary. Also, better if I avoided times when we were both alone together. She's reaching out to one of the wives to watch over Mary, a combination of counseling and cock-blocking. The video. First thing I noticed in the video was her hair was down and her makeup. Plus, she was out of uniform and wearing one of my shirts that she took with her. She said she had mixed feelings about our last conversation and how she left things, then after my email realized she might have foobarred everything. The video was 20 minutes long with at least 2 noticeable pauses after she started tearing up. I saw a very mushy and vulnerable side of my wife that I'd never seen before, and it killed me that I couldn't hug her afterwards. Whatever doubts or fears I had was squashed this morning. I just finished watching the video for the 4th time, and I can't get to the end of it without almost breaking down. She wants me to plan a week away after she gets back. I'm confused. What does she think? She foobarred? The video was the night before, or another FaceTime the next morning. What does her hair and makeup mean? Did she wake up and realize she basically told her husband that cheating is okay? I'm not following. OP replies, "The FaceTime call was when I told her about Mary hitting on me, and she told me things that kind of triggered me. The video was almost 2 days later, after she realized some of what she told me was confusing, and I emailed her that I was struggling with what she said. She's on board a carrier group at the moment, with almost no makeup, and her hair high and tight most of the time. She took the time to fix her hair and put on extra makeup to look nice for me. Plus, she had taken a couple of my shirts with her and had to put one on instead of her khakis. The extra effort was not lost on me. The part about her not wanting to know and no harm no foul came at the end of her phone time, and we didn't get to talk it out. Just like me, she felt like the way she left it was troubling, and it's already been bothering her even before she got my email. She took 2 shirts that I like to wear around the house and a small bottle of my cologne with her. She says it makes her feel better and helps her fall asleep faster. Update. So for the happy part of this update, my wife's group is getting Liberty later this month, and my company is arranging for me to be on site for some tech support a few days before they make port, which will give us 48 hours together before they leave port again. My new dilemma is that the officer's wife, Mary, who made a pass at me, has reached out to me again, this time to apologize and explain. My wife had reached out to another older wife to counsel Mary about the repercussions of inappropriate behavior and riding herd on her for a while. Mary apologized for putting me in a bad position and also expressed her disappointment that I had told my wife about what had happened. Then she proceeded to explain that she wasn't cheating on her husband because they had an open marriage and were free to see others when the Navy separated them. Since I was so friendly with the other wives, she assumed that I had a similar arrangement with my wife. I accepted her apology and said that I was flattered, but I wasn't interested. The dilemma is, do I pass this information on to my wife? On one hand, I know this is information that she would rather not know, especially while they're deployed, but she might need to know if she plans on telling him at some point about his wife's indiscretions. It could be an awkward conversation where he either doesn't act surprised or upset, to one where he might come clean about their relationship. In almost any case, my wife will be put in a situation where she might feel compelled to take actions that she would rather not take. In the comments on why OP doesn't tell the husband, because he's in the middle of a 3-month deployment at sea. When the wife first hit on me, I didn't know that they had an open relationship. Is there really an open relationship? I guess I just took her word, but you're right, I don't know for sure. When told to ignore Mary until his wife returns, several of the spouses of the officers in my wife's department are in a running group that I started, and Mary runs with us most days. Plus, we all socialize together for support. I have made sure that I am never alone with Mary, especially in social settings. When told Mary is jeopardizing her husband's career and may have an open marriage but she's not being discreet, OP says, "My wife and I have never had a conversation about what she did or didn't need to know. We talked about the basic do's and don'ts, but this scenario never came up. This was our first deployment, and they only had a 10-day notice, so things were moving at light speed and with little time for a lot of what-if conversations. Several people have pointed out Mary's behavior as being self-destructive, especially towards her husband's career. I haven't been able to fully wrap my head around that yet. I will get to see my wife before they come back home, so I may have a discussion with her then." On why this is a tricky situation, OP says, "If he's in an open marriage and is having sex outside of his marriage, my wife would need to report it if she is aware of it. But I have no proof that he is engaged with anyone or that the marriage is even actually open, other than a confession from his wife. I agree that she may have lied to me to justify her actions, so I'm hesitant to pass info to my wife that she may feel a need to act on. I don't feel that delaying telling the husband is that wrong, as he is in no position to do anything but stress himself out. I will inform her of everything when she gets back, if not before. But our relationship is complicated. She can't just ignore information because it was whispered while in bed together. I work for a defense contractor that deals heavily with my wife's department. We both have details that we can't share with each other for professional reasons. I still consult with and have trained most of her staff. We both had to accept early on that there were things that we just couldn't share with each other. It still irritates her when I remind her that I have a higher security clearance than her, and need to know is a comical banter between us." Private Piss Pants says, "Hey OP, you did the right thing by telling your wife the first time. You were protecting your relationship with your wife by being honest. By holding this new information to yourself, you're doing the right thing again. Your wife likely expressed that she doesn't want to know because the officer hasn't done anything wrong, only the spouse has. The spouse's actions don't matter from the UCMJ's perspective, and neither do yours. Cheating won't get her family thrown off base or her husband reprimanded unless he knew about it. I don't see anyone mentioning operational capacity here. If this officer is relieved of his post, then there isn't likely to be a replacement. The entire crew will have increased responsibilities for the duration of the deployment. By giving him the information directly when he gets home, you give him the opportunity to protect himself, thereby protecting your wife from command issues. There is nothing wrong with protecting someone when you have the ability to. You're protecting a lot more than just the husband by keeping this information private. The officer corps is woven together, and losing one officer can affect dozens or hundreds of people, commissioned and enlisted. OP says, your assessment was spot on. Her biggest concern was having to relieve him and not having anyone competent to fill his duties. Her teams were already spread pretty thin and were struggling to keep their timetables. Quote, also expressed her disappointment that I had told my wife about what had happened. Yes, we tell each other everything. So think about it before you say anything else, right? Like there's no scenario where I don't tell my spouse that someone invited me to cheat with them, and I'm also naming names. Yeah, like not immediately telling your spouse opens you up to a world of potential hurt. No way I'm risking that ever. Trust is so hard to get back once it's gone. Military life is weird, man. Honestly, no disrespect to anyone in the military, but it sounds like poison for a relationship. There's a reason the divorce rate is twice as high among military than civilians. There are hurdles to the relationship that don't exist for almost any other career. The high divorce rate isn't just driven by military stresses like deployments and frequent moves. Marriage is also incentivized by the pay/base housing system. Married couples can get better housing or housing allowance and can even live off base. That, plus a bunch of teenagers, no small percentage of whom join to escape difficult or dysfunctional home situations, who are on their own and making grown-up decisions for the first time, and you've got a system-wide recipe for marry in haste, repent at leisure. Am I the asshole for not allowing my fiancé's best friend to come to our wedding? Posted by XXOracleXX33. My fiancé and I have been together just under 6 years. Dated 3, engaged 2.5. Great relationship relatively. Our friends and family all get along well with the other person, no issues at all, except for one of my partner's best friends. Said best friend never liked me and seemingly had it out for me the entire time. She basically ignores my existence, refuses to speak to me or be cordial, but as soon as she sees my partner, she's yelling and hugging him, talking about, "Hey, best friend," while ignoring me, even though I'm right next to him. I told him about it and how it made me feel, and at first it went unaddressed 2 to 3 more times because he needed proof to make sure there was an issue. After the proof was present, he spoke to her about it, and she got a little bit better, but only around groups of people, and only like twice. She indicated that she doesn't have a problem with me, so he felt that I'm the only one having an issue, and that I just need to approach her and talk it out. I told him that I'm not doing that because she isn't my friend, and he needs to do so. A couple weeks ago, we attended a mutual friend's party. I attempted to make eye contact and say hello 2 to 3 times, but she avoided me and refused to look at me the whole time. My fiancé noticed because it was so blatant. I don't want her respect, I don't need her to like me, and I don't honestly want her around at all. I just want her to have basic human decency. The situation has caused me to rethink my relationship and ending it because I feel like my fiancé is in the wrong for engaging with her after seeing how she completely disregards me. I think now, but mostly after marriage, we're supposed to be a unit, and I wouldn't allow this behavior from a friend. I've been feeling like an asshole because we spent the better half of a nice drunken evening arguing about this, and I told him that she can't come to our wedding, as I won't have someone who can't seem to stand me near me. Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé that she can't come to our wedding? In the comments, Coet says, "Not the asshole, but I'm surprised that you decided to marry someone who allows such behavior toward you." OP says, I don't want to ruin what otherwise has been the healthiest and best relationship in my life, but I've been thinking on it hard, because where are the boundaries? She is not distant with you, she pretends that you don't exist. A good partner wouldn't keep her as a friend. Moreover, most people don't need to face such dilemma once they're done with high school. Why? Well, usually when someone doesn't like a friend's significant other very much, he or she tries to befriend the significant other anyway because he or she is afraid to lose his or her friend. If there really is no compatibility, they tend to avoid the significant other, but they don't become openly hostile to avoid losing their friend, except if they have a reason to dislike the significant other. Ask yourself 1. Why does your significant other accept the way that his friend behaves towards you? 2. Why does she think that she can increase the hostility that she displays towards you over time? I guess she assumes that there will be no consequences, and/or she thinks that she is his number one. OP replies, true. I think she thinks that she is his number one, and he'll choose her if it came to the wire. She acts very much like a high schooler, and that's something that I can't get jiggy with. I don't know why he's accepting of this behavior. It definitely makes me suspicious at first because I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why aren't you defending me? But to be honest, he's non-confrontational, avoids any type of conflict, and tends to make excuses for everyone. He's just like me for real. Morvarin replies, here's the thing, OP. He has basically chosen her over you almost every time. Why is he okay with hurting you, the person that he's in a relationship with, to avoid conflict with his friends? I'm not going to say break up, but I think you need to take a long look at his behavior and decide if you want to spend the rest of your life being put second. Because by being non-confrontational and allowing her to continue to disrespect you, he is choosing a side, and it's not yours. OP replies, I'm starting to see that more and more. I don't know, it's not a big deal to him. He brushes it off as her just being her, but you're absolutely right that he's not choosing me. It's a hard realization to come to, and I'm sorry that it's necessary. I know you love him, and you want the best for him, but you deserve someone who also wants that for you and treats you accordingly. You deserve someone who will put you first, will stand up for you, and not accept someone disrespecting you. Whatever decision you make, I wish you the best. I know that this is a question of allowing or not allowing fiancé's best friend to come to our wedding, but you opened Pandora's box, and I'm sorry that it's taken internet strangers and neutral third parties, or as neutral as Reddit can be, but neutral third parties nonetheless, to open your eyes to what's going on in front of your face. I'm completely on board with Morvarin. He is disrespecting you, OP. He knows that his best friend is an orbiter waiting for him to be single. If that's not clear through him choosing her every time that you've brought up that she's blatantly disrespecting you, then I don't know how I can convince you that he wants her more than he wants you. People in the comments will say, Marky, that's cope. Marky, you're being Delulu. That's not the Salulu. Shut up. I'll believe what I want. Let me have my delusional fantasies in peace, okay? Not the arsehole, OP. Update. So the comments on my original post opened my eyes and made me realize that despite this being the healthiest relationship I've been in, it doesn't mean that it's actually healthy. We've had a couple of conversations surrounding this issue, which mostly consisted of me saying it bothered me and him saying that I was the only one who cared. That's really mean. That's gotta sting. What? You're the only one that cares that she's disrespecting you, because I certainly don't. Hey man, screw you. A couple of things helped me realize my breaking points. 1, I asked him if he would be okay with our daughter's future partner treating them like this, to which he got flustered, shut down, and said that he didn't want to talk about it. I left it alone. OP taking a page from It Ends With Us, just saying. Tell him how you really feel, OP. 2, he said he didn't want to end his friendship or do anything to jeopardize it because what if we break up? This made me realize he would not protect me as his wife, since he didn't as his girlfriend. The final straw was when I expressed how much it bothered me that he wanted me to blow this off since we, as in me and the best friend, only see each other 4 to 6 times a year, and he said, directly quoted because this is burned into my brain, I know the way that she treats you is garbage, but you're allowing one person to dictate our relationship. Damn, that's crazy. It could be worse. She could be more active. There are worse ways to meddle. People text and lie. And all that to break relationships up. Oof, invalidate me harder. I love a good beating. The first line broke my heart and told me all I needed to know. I have to truck through a couple more months of pre-planned and paid-for social engagements, but I closed the curtain on any chance of healing this relationship the moment those words left his mouth. Thank you everyone for the advice, common sense, knocking me upside my head, and similar related experiences and outcomes. I'm gonna go to therapy and redefine the definition of what a healthy, balanced, and communicative relationship is. Edit: the pre-planned events aren't wedding and engagement related. We share a home, need to divide assets, pets, a custody schedule. Additionally, we have vacations planned with a mutually shared friend group, best friend not a part of that group. I appreciate the concerns, but I need to plan things out a little more. There will be no second chance. To those that keep saying they're screwing, probably. When I first brought this up, he became stressed and kept emphasizing how I thought he was screwing his best friend and didn't address the issue that was brought up. I don't care to know or confirm. Edit 2, we are not getting married or continuing our relationship. For those thinking that I'm using the pre-planned events to justify holding out, absolutely effing not. Our relationship was dead the moment he admitted that she treated me like garbage and then basically shrugged it off. As a note, I never asked him to cut anyone off or out of his life. I simply asked for basic greetings and acknowledgement during the rare encounters with his BFF. This hasn't happened, aside from a couple of begrudging times. In the comments, Scenarioing says, I know the way she treats you is garbage, but you're allowing one person to dictate our relationship. Yeah, he is the one doing that. It could be worse. She could be more active. This means that she hasn't actually said she wanted to sleep with him yet. Well, she doesn't have to say that. They probably did it, and not once. That's why she's so confident about her role in his life. That or he's her backup plan. If OP ever actually ends things, the friend will claim that she feels bad until she gets a new boyfriend. And then she'll pop back up when he gets another girlfriend. Yes, it is all narcissism. She doesn't want the fiancé, but she wants to be wanted. He said he didn't want to end his friendship or do anything to jeopardize it because what if we break up? This made me realize he wouldn't protect me as his wife. Yup, the friend comes before you. What a self-fulfilling prophecy. You can't live in the what-ifs. All those moments were just bullets going through me. Oh my god, fiancé, tell me how you really feel about all this. I'm just curious, man. I just want to know. Tell me again how important I am in your life. Oh my god. I'm glad that OP realizes the relationship is dead because, wowee, what kind of loving partner answers, sincere questions like that? Final update. So my ex-fiancé did begin to make an effort to include me and make sure that I was addressed during group events, even though we'd already separated. Throughout the summer, we had many conversations, not in hopes of reconciling, but mostly to make sure that he truly understood the cause of our breakup. While drunk, he apologized for his messy and toxic friends, said that he needed to reevaluate his friendships, and apologized for bringing them into my life. He changed his tune in later sober conversations. I was met with continued excuses and my POV and feelings being brushed off. This isn't that big of a deal. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I have friends that have done worse. The explanation and insight I received is that the best friend was a side piece, knowingly for like 7 to 10 years. Guy had a baby and brought his baby mother a house, car, and basically got married, all while stringing the friend along. And as a result, the BFF has always asserted herself as being the most important woman in her male friends' lives. So, OP should care about that why? So she was willingly a side piece that got dragged along for a decade and we should care why? All in all, just gonna go to therapy, heal some shit, and move on. I'm starting piano lessons soon and taking a language class to pass my free time. And I'm also focusing on cooking again and moving my body. I'm gonna lose about 40 to 50 pounds. Thanks everyone for commenting, offering solutions and alternative POV, including those who felt that I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I was trying to make her be friends with me. I never wanted that. I felt crazy for a while, but I'm thankful for all the strangers on Reddit confirming that I'm not. In the comments, Kuteleki says, "Jesus, your ex is an idiot. That girl doesn't actually want him, she just doesn't want anyone else to have his attention. Later, when he can't ignore that she's the problem, he's going to massively regret his choices here. Hopefully by that time, you'll be having a fantastic life and don't even think about him anymore." OP says, "I've heard from mutuals that this happened before, in the sense of him prioritizing their friendship and it affecting his other relationships. He just didn't want to admit it. I just hope that he draws better boundaries for his next partner." When OP's ex comes begging in a year or 3, likely as soon as she announces her new relationship or announces her new engagement on social media, I really hope she twists the screws and asks how his relationship with his BFF is going. Yeah, the minute he sees her happy, he's gonna try to make her life messy. I just don't understand how some people lack this self-awareness or self-respect not to just cut people like that out of their lives. Like, my brother, come on. She's already sunk a relationship before and you're allowing her to sink the relationship again. If everywhere you go there is a rancid smell, you need to look under your shoe. But no. Giving her another chance and keeping her in my life is the answer. Acknowledging the fact that yes, she does get between me and my partners, and then not doing anything about it. I am OP's ex-fiancé. I am a smart man. Congratulations for getting out of there, OP. Honestly, thank God you didn't waste any more time with that man. As much as people in the comments say that they hope that things get better for him in the future, I genuinely doubt it. If he's twice burnt now, I don't think a third time is going to change anything. Good luck to him, and thank you for the story, OP. Our next post is by user Almond Milk Lover, titled, "Am I the asshole for not getting my partner food after they didn't cook?" Hi, I'm 27 male and in my first year of residency. My work life, as expected, is exhausting. It feels like I spend all of my time in the hospital, 72 hours per week, as I have yet to have a weekend off, which I could really use to just sit on my balcony staring at the Pacific for hours on end. This past Saturday, I worked my very first 24-hour shift and it nearly killed me. My back was aching, my feet were tired, and my brain felt like it needed a factory reset. On Sunday, I worked from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m., which wasn't too bad. Whenever I had any downtime, I always made sure to check in on my partner, as they work from home, to see how their day is going and to talk about whatever. While we were on the phone, I asked them if they would make my favorite dish, which is simply katsu with brown rice and a lot of katsu sauce. They agreed, and I was ecstatic as I haven't had a homemade meal in a while since I don't have the energy to cook when I get home, and I usually just grab something when I get off work, if something I like is still open. I live a little over an hour and a half outside the city, but there was a terrible car accident on the highway, so my drive home took well over 2 hours. I pulled up hungry, ready to eat, but when I walked into the kitchen from the garage, there was no cooked food at all. I was pissed and called out my partner's name and asked them to come here, but they didn't answer. I went upstairs and found them in their office, playing games on their PC. I asked them to stop so that we could talk, and I asked them why they didn't cook as they said they would. They admitted they got distracted after getting off work and forgot about it. I said that's fine, but I would have really appreciated it if they had at least called me to let me know so that I could have stopped to get something while I was already out. I told them that I felt that they were being inconsiderate as they know how much I have to work and how tired I am when I get home. I can admit that my tone when we were speaking was stern, but I felt that it was called for. They called me an asshole for yelling at them for forgetting this little thing. After we were done, I was hungry, so I grabbed my keys and went to get something to eat for myself. I saw that while I was waiting, they texted me their order, but I ignored them. When I got back home and they saw that I didn't get them anything, they called me a petty asshole and went back upstairs. I didn't say anything out loud as I wasn't in the mood and just wanted to eat, shower, and go to bed. So am I the asshole? In the comments, Popular Block 5790 says, "Info. Is this something that happens regularly? Your partner forgetting things that they wanted to do for you? Or is this something that doesn't happen often?" OP says, "No, this isn't something that happens regularly. They're usually pretty attentive to me, as I am to them. I think the stress that I've been under from work lately has possibly caused me to become more annoyed than I usually would at things like this, which is why I reacted the way that I did. You're the asshole. You've made a lot of personal choices that mean you're exhausted and stressed out, and that's hard, but ultimately it's on you. I get that you were really looking forward to a home-cooked meal, but it sounds like your partner also works and was just tired, decompressing from work, and forgot. Like, I assume you come home at a different time each day, and then you were an hour later because of an accident. Your partner is probably also just used to you not being there. Did you send a reminder about dinner or an update on the time? Offer to pick up groceries, etc.? People also forget things all the time. That's totally normal. The way you treated them, being stern or yelling, isn't okay, and is a pretty extreme response. What did you expect to gain from that? Forgetting isn't deliberate or malicious, it sounds like you might be taking your stress out of them. If you were less exhausted and had been cooking for yourself, would you have reacted this way? It's reasonable to be disappointed, but I think the emotions here are heightened because of how your choices are affecting you. I'd also imagine your choices, like how long you spend at work and how you're tired all the time, are putting strain on the relationship in general. It doesn't sound like you're considering how this might be affecting things overall. If you actually like this person and want to be with them, you need to have a conversation about all of this and figure out how much support you can expect and also what is expected of you. Because it doesn't sound like you have anything to give at all now and won't for a long time. I've had events where I've worked 70 to 80-hour weeks, and there is just no way that I could sustain a relationship if that was my life long term. It's asking a lot of someone. OP says, "This won't be my life long term, just for the next 3 years unfortunately. I do want to stay with them, I love them, and I plan to talk to them today about potentially starting couples therapy to get some guidance on how we can support each other and work on conflict resolution so that I don't feel the need to retaliate. I also want to start seeing a therapist individually, as I can acknowledge that I have become quick to anger and raising my voice in situations in which it's uncalled for. As an aside, if you're working 70+ hour weeks and then living 1.5 hours away from your place of work, that is not sustainable. Not the asshole." OP says, "Yes, I know it isn't, but I already own my own home because it was left for me by my parents. I live in a state with a high cost of living, and I have debt that I need to pay down. Living outside of the city is a little cheaper for me, and I honestly prefer it. I'll probably sell and move depending on where my career takes me after residency." I understand the "you're the asshole" thing, but I think personally it's a no assholes here situation. I think what they put residents through in hospital is a goddamn blight to society. They should not be putting people on 12-hour days and making you sleep there for days on end. What the hell is up with that? "Oh yeah, sorry, I have a life-saving surgery, but the surgeon that's about to work on me has been awake for 20 hours. Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna be in good hands with that guy. Hell yeah." This just feels like one of those relationship testing fights, and I do think that you guys are gonna get through this because, doesn't sound like the end of the relationship personally from the way you're wording this. I do think that if you want the relationship to continue healthily, you guys just need to rent out that property you're in and rent somewhere closer to the hospital, because a 1.5 hour commute with those kind of working days is crazy. That, if anything, will break the relationship and cause more situations like this in the future. Update. Thank you all for commenting and helping me find a new perspective on this. I really do appreciate it. Before I dive into an update, I would like to first address my partner's pronouns, as I saw this being mentioned a couple of times, and people took it upon themselves to assume gender. My partner is non-binary and uses they-them pronouns, which is why I used they-them throughout this post, not because I was afraid of sounding like a misogynist. I also do not get a meal stipend, which I also saw mentioned. We have access to a lounge which has sandwiches, which are cold, little snacks and drinks. I don't like it, as I have certain dietary restrictions, and I'm a picky eater. I saw another comment implying that this was fake and that I was lying because of my commute time. I know it sounds insane, because it is insane, but I'm over $300,000 in debt from undergrad and medical school combined. I was left my home by my parents, and because it's paid off, I don't have a mortgage to pay. Apartments are expensive for a 2-bedroom, which I would need to accommodate an office space for my partner. I don't drive back home every night, which is something that I should have mentioned, because I do get exhausted and know that it's too dangerous for me to drive in that condition. This is another reason why I haven't had a home-cooked meal in a while, because I'm barely home. I get a room at a motel, sleep there, and then go back to work when it's time. I understand now that this is unsustainable and is causing me extra stress that isn't helpful for me, my relationship, or my life overall. I won't be selling my house, but I will be renting it out. I talked to my partner about it this morning, along with some other things such as couples therapy and my own individual therapy for my anger and my short fuse beginning to develop. We both apologized to each other, as well as my partner for forgetting, and me for my sophomoric reaction to their forgetfulness. I told them about leaving our house, and they were thankfully receptive to this as well. They're not working today, so I asked them to look for places online that are no more than 45 minutes from the hospital. I'd lower that to 20 minutes, but hey, just me. I love my partner, as we've been together since my M2 days. They got me through the difficulties of med school, prepping for my boards through endless support and encouragement that I would pass, and through my parents' death. I will not let this job take away the person that I intend to marry. In the comments, Imaginary Cycle 1977 says, "There's no good reason doctors should be working 70+ hour weeks or 24-hour shifts. Dumbass system they choose to perpetuate because it's been done that way forever. My spouse is a physician and often works with residents, and I've gone to social gatherings with some senior people in medical education, and I lean into this point so much. Their argument is that residents need to see disease and medicine progression as it is happening in real time, and that you never know who's coming into the hospital with what. I point out that in that state, they should not be operating heavy machinery, much less being responsible for providing healthcare that if done improperly could be fatal. On-call is a thing, with expectations of being at a workplace within a window is a well-established practice, and I don't see why it couldn't be used here. Needless to say, they didn't agree with me, and naturally I'm sure didn't take me seriously as I'm not in the medical profession myself, but I suspect a lot of this stems from a combination of pearl clutching, and I suffered through it, so why shouldn't the next generation have to do the same? No. A lot of people in the medical profession just think that they're genuinely above everyone else. They will see your mouth moving, and if you don't have an MD, those words are going directly through their cranium and out the other side. As much as it would be nice for them to take the layman's objective outside opinions on things like this, they do not care what we have to say. OP barely has time for themselves. How are they going to find time for both individual and couples therapy? Well, that's the neat thing. They won't. Right? As soon as he mentioned couples therapy, I was like, when? He's never home as it is, and his shifts are all over the shop. I highly doubt he's going to be able to line up a time that works for his schedule, his partner's schedule, and the therapist's schedule. I asked them to look for places online that are no more than 45 minutes from the hospital. Dude needs to live like 5 minutes from the hospital, not 45. Yeah, seriously. When I was an intern, I lived 20 to 25 minutes away with traffic, and that was a bad time. One of my interns now lives an hour away, and I'm genuinely concerned he's going to get into an accident getting to and from work. It's literally unsafe for residents to live that far away, especially when post-call. I really don't have much else to cap this off with because I've sprinkled my opinions throughout. I hope that OP gets enough time out of their 24-hour shifts to read these comments and advocate for a 5-minute to 10-minute kind of commute, not a 45-minute one. That's crazy. I also do hope that the relationship survives these next 3 years, but, you know, life happens, life finds a way. Sometimes not in the best way. But best of luck regardless, OP. I do hope that it works out for you, and I do hope that after these 3 years, if you can weather the storm, that, you know, you work a lot less hours. I think you should lend yourself that courtesy of staring at the Pacific Ocean in your off time. I think that would be nice. As always, thank you for sharing your story with us. I appreciated it. Would I be the asshole here if I break off my engagement because of his new views about women? My 28 female, fiancé, 34 male and I used to have a great relationship, but for the last year, his political views have become a problem. I mostly bit my tongue about it, but it came to a head when he accused a woman at his job of lying about her assault. I pointed out that when a woman accuses a man of rape, he questions it and says she is lying. He questioned that by saying that it's stupid to believe an accusation like that with no proof. I pointed out that he has no proof that she's lying either, but he's accusing her anyway. He often sends me articles of women, usually teachers, abusing boys. I brought up that he never says that the boys are lying or asks for proof. He got very upset and kept repeating that I was trivializing male abuse. I don't feel like I was, I just feel like I was pointing out the hypocrisy. He denied being biased against female accusers. I reminded him that when the allegations against Diddy first happened, he said that feminists were just trying to ruin a successful man's life. Unsurprisingly, he never brought up the man who accused Diddy of assault. He defended Diddy up until the video of him physically assaulting Cassie was leaked, and even then, he said that we didn't know the whole story. The final straw was when he was telling me, yet again, how women are actually worse than men because we are sneaky and conniving, and at least men will screw you over to your face. He kept saying that women are far worse people than men, and I just lost it. I said that there was nowhere on Earth, not now or ever in recorded history, has the female violent crime rate been higher than the males. I told him that men kill each other even more than they kill us, so they're a bigger danger to themselves than some girl being sneaky. I said that blaming women for unfair legislation, like conscription, makes no sense when men make up the majority of the US government, and most, if not all, other governments. He was absolutely furious about all of this. He didn't argue with me per se, he just told me that I was brainwashed by the feminist agenda and that feminism lied to me and convinced me that I was special. I still don't know where that comment came from. It was not relevant to anything. I admittedly was very pissed off and said, well, maybe patriarchy lied to you about this relationship being special. And I threw my ring at the table and left the house, and haven't spoken to him since. Today, he sent me a long text stating how I belittled him with that comment, and that I would be a good wife if I could just stop needing to be right all the time. Psychopath. Psychopathic statement. My feelings care about your facts. I haven't responded, and I'm conflicted about if I will at all. I feel bad about throwing the ring. I really feel bad that I hurt his feelings by saying that our relationship isn't special, but still, to be honest, I'm seriously questioning if I really want to marry him. You know the answer, OP, don't do it. Don't put yourself through that. He's always been argumentative, not just with me, with everyone. Normally, I just ignore it, but he was so egregious with his hypocritical BS. I shouldn't have taken the bait, and I don't feel like men are generally bad. I was speaking out of anger. I don't consider myself to be a super political person. I'm not even sure if I count as a feminist. He just has a new complaint about women every frickin' day at this point. It's so frustrating. I don't know when he became this way, but it sucks. There are still things that I love about him, but the things he's been saying may be more than I can forgive. Despite all of that, I'm still responsible for my intense outburst because I ignored his constant woman bashing in an effort to keep the peace. I exploded when I could have just spoken up from the start. Maybe if I'd nipped it in the bud right at the start, it could have been better. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Turbulent Ebb says, nope. Quote, stating how I belittled him with that comment and that I would be a good wife if I would just stop needing to be right all the time. That's all you needed to hear from him to not look back. Oh yeah, this right here is what should be the most frightening part. He wants you to be quiet, he wants you to not question anything that he says, he wants to always be right. He wants to complain about women to you without you defending yourself, a woman. This is all the signals he will attempt to force you into submission to his ideology, and this is done by force. He is slowly pushing very little steps to acclimate you into it until he can fully get there. That's why he keeps bringing it up. He's waiting for you to lower your guard. He clearly does not view you as an equal partner. In essence, you are right about your relationship. He doesn't love you. He loves what he can turn you into if you let him. Patriarchy did indeed lie to him about what a perfect relationship he thought you both had. Not the asshole. And probably a safe idea to protect yourself. You never know. Red pill guys are unstable and can turn violent in a whim, even if they never presented any signs of being aggressive. And the breakup will amplify the misogyny because it couldn't possibly be his fault. It will also amplify crazy. My ex was exactly this. He then also turned into my stalker until he found the next young girl to love bomb and gaslight because I wasn't coming back. OP really needs to move carefully because things can switch fast. Getting out safely and having a safe place to live should be first things first, making sure everyone is aware of why as well. He'll try to spin this to have people guilt her into coming back. I hope she takes care of herself and stays safe. He's telling you who he is. The collective sigh of relief from everyone OP knows when that ring hit the table. Not the asshole, run and don't look back. I wonder how much time she's spent either defending him to her friends or just leaving things out when she talks about him. We know when our partners suck. We hide it from others to protect them from ridicule and ourselves from judgment. Don't marry this man, don't have children with him, sons will be put on the pedestal and daughters accused of lying and being sneaky. Oh my god, can you imagine this guy having a daughter? That poor girl would need therapy before she's even born. What an awful thought. Being hated by your parent because you were born with the wrong genitals. Let's hope he never procreates. Hi, daughter of a misogynist who put his son on a pedestal and emotionally neglected and abused me. It took years of therapy and my dad dying to make things right for me. I don't recommend this to anyone. The Diddy defending is crazy here. I could see that there is a lot of self-blaming going on at the end there, OP. It's like, what could I have done? What should I have done? How could I have minimized this? If my actions were different, would he not be acting like this? And I think Princess Pris put it well. It's like, I wonder how much time you did spend defending him. And I think you say a lot of those things defensively because I think you do know your partner sucks, but you didn't want to accept that he sucked as bad as he really does. I would imagine that you've been hiding his viewpoints from your friends to protect him from ridicule and to protect yourself from judgment, but just know that it's okay to be open about those things. But when your partner is abusive and is going to stalk you and put your life in danger, it's okay to tell it to specific people, not to everyone. As other people were saying, he's only going to escalate his behavior, and if other people are going to tell him because he's given them his side of the story where he's in the right and you're in the wrong, that may be bad for you. Telling loved ones that will not pass on the information, telling therapists, telling the police, I'd imagine those are some good people to tell. But ultimately, you're not the asshole here for breaking off the engagement, and I hope that you take all the steps necessary to protect yourself after breaking off with him. Update. Hi again. I'm surprised and overwhelmed by the response that my post got. Thanks to everyone who read through all that, and thanks to anyone who reads through all of this too. After I left, I went to a hotel. He kept contacting me to ask when I was coming home, and I told him that I needed time to think and turned off my phone. When I turned it back on, I saw his photo on my lock screen and decided to call him, for reasons that will make sense later. He said that he wanted to talk face to face, and I agreed, so I went home. He apologized for implying that I'm not special. I apologized for implying that our relationship isn't special. We've been together for 12 years. By the way, she's 28, he is 34. Interesting how history repeats itself in situations like this. So saying that was hurtful and untrue. And before anyone compares the harshness of our statements, his wrongs don't justify my own and vice versa. Disclaimer, this post is not about the validity or ethics of gender roles. This is strictly an account of what happened with no wider social commentary from me. We discussed what we wanted for the future. He wants a traditional marriage and specified the following. 1. I would quit my job and we'd start trying for a baby right after the wedding. 2. I'd be a stay-at-home mom until the kids are old enough for primary school and we would raise them as Christians. 3. He wants to protect and provide for our family, and I would be submissive. He assured me that I could still disagree with him and have a say, but he wants to ultimately have the final say in most things. So he wants a bang maid that is financially dependent on him, and that ultimately has no power. Cool and normal. He asked if I understood what he wanted, and I said yes. When he asked me if I still wanted to get married, I told him that I didn't. He has the right to change his mind, but it's not the arrangement that we agreed to when he proposed. This post is long enough, so I won't detail how he got into this gender essentialism stuff, or why I don't want that type of relationship that he's asking for. Suffice to say, we are no longer compatible. He wants to do a trial run of his preferred setup so that I can see that it's for the best. How about no, Scott, okay? I told him that we had a very successful trial run of not doing that for 10 years until he decided to switch things up a few years ago. He was unfazed by this. So, about the lock screen, he has a small snaggletooth toward the back that he's always been shy about, so he never fully smiles in public. That photo was one of the very few pictures where he is showing his real smile, and it's beautiful. Seeing that photo used to make me so happy. When I saw it this morning, I just felt sad. I know it sounds dramatic, but it feels like he died and was replaced by some kind of red-pilled podcaster person. When he asked me if I still loved him at all, I told him that I will always love him, but I'm not in love with him anymore. I get that many people had strong feelings about the things he said, and he definitely crossed the line several times, but this is still so hard for me to do. He's the only man that I've ever been with, and my best friend. I'm relieved that it's over, but still sad about how it ended. I accept that he's a different person now, but it's hard not to think of what could have been. Edit about the age gap. I rounded up from the more accurate 11 years and however many months, and just said 12 years, but yeah, I was 17 and he was 22 when we got together. I know that's a big red flag now, but at the time, I didn't see it that way. I was raised in a super conservative family and intended to save myself for marriage. I slowly moved away from ultra-conservatism/religion as I got older. I know that's still a little sus that he was with me to begin with, but for what it's worth, we didn't have sex until I was 19 and it was very consensual. In the comments, Bloody Stupid Johnson 3 says, "You put it perfectly right here." He asked if I understood what he wanted, and I said yes, and when he asked me if I still wanted to get married, I told him that I didn't. He has the right to change his mind, but it's not the arrangement that we agreed to when he proposed. You made an informed decision, right? I also like when she said, "We had a very successful trial run of not doing that for 10 years. I feel like it's really hard to go from doing something well for 10 years and then expect to just change it almost 180 degrees and expect it to go well. More like impossible when it's a one-sided decision. I feel sorry for OP, but I'm glad she's able to set and maintain her boundaries for a relationship. I'm very proud of you. It's hard to make that change, and you were so honest about how this isn't going to work for you, and yes, he changed things. You had a good 10 years and 2 bad ones. Those bad ones outweigh the good. You are going to thrive. And the positive growth she'll have once she's out of the relationship that started when she was 16. I hope we get an update 6 months to a year from now. I suspect that life on the other side is going to have some amazing surprises for her. As a man, good for you. Sorry your fiancé jumped off the deep end of the crazy pool. He wants to ultimately have the final say in most things. Jesus effing Christ on a bike. The best thing about being in a relationship is having someone you trust to talk things through with and ultimately get a decision that includes the other person's perspective. It's always the clueless idiots that want the final say in everything. He wants a trial run for you being a stay-at-home mom and have a baby? What would he do with the baby when you tell him that the trial run failed? Ask God to undo the baby? Total BS. He just wants to trap you. I think he wanted a trial run of her staying home and being fully submissive, never talking back, and letting him have the final say in everything. Even without a baby, she would quickly lose her ability to leave with no income. Ah yes, my beautiful, loving fiancé, would you please step into the jail cell for me, just as a funny little prank? It's gonna be a good time, and I swear, once I have you in chains and locked up, I'll let you out, you can trust me. You're definitely gonna be let out of the cage once the trial run ends. You can definitely trust me on that. Unfortunately, another victim of age gap relationships starting before 18 years old. Okay, groomer. I'm feeling very much mixed feelings on the ending of this one. I'm happy that she's out of that situation. I'm happy that she's getting to live her own life. But at the same time, I want him to have repercussions for his actions, for his words, for him grooming her at the age of 17. I am scared that this is not the end of their interactions together, because someone that is abusive and wants full control of you won't just let you break up with them and leave like that. I feel like OP is going to do all the standard tricks of setting up cameras, getting a paper trail, reporting him to the police potentially if he starts popping up. That was an ending to the story, but it's got me feeling uneasy and I'm unhappy. I hope everything goes well for you, OP, but please update us in the future that you're safe. Thank you for sharing the story. Our next post is by user Victitious, titled, "Am I the asshole for not inviting my siblings to my wedding? My sister, 34 female, and her husband, 36 male, just got married 3 months ago. I, 30 female, was appointed maid of honor. I was so excited to help her plan her wedding, and I took on most of the work since I was unemployed at the time and she's a doctor. I won't get into details, but take note that she didn't have a wedding planner, it was all me. The time leading up to the wedding, I was miserable because of how the bride treated me. I felt like her own personal slave that she felt she could kick around because she's the bride. Just because you're a bride doesn't mean you get a free pass to be a witch. Many times I wanted to just step out of the wedding party, but I kept telling myself to just bite my tongue and keep the peace because she's probably just stressed. After doing so much for her, she refused to invite my fiancé even if we'd been together for 12 years, but invited my siblings' partners who had been around for only 2 to 3 years. My sister and her guy dated for a year before they got engaged, so we really don't know him too well. She said that she didn't want my fiancé around because people would be asking about my own wedding since they've all been wanting us to get married for a while. I refused to do any more work for her wedding until she apologized to me and invited my fiancé, which she did. Not exactly sincerely, but whatever. I was hurt that she wasn't even grateful for anything that I had done for her and her dream wedding because it was expected of me to help. Cut to the day of the wedding, and everything was fine. The ceremony was beautiful, and the couple was happy. I was happy for my sister. By the time that we got to the reception venue, I noticed that my fiancé and I were on a separate table from my family. They were at the VIP table, and I was cast aside to sit at the furthest table right beside the kitchen. I figured there was a mistake, and I calmly asked the bride about it since she handled the seating plan. She looked me dead in the eye and said there is no mistake. That's where we belong, at the kids' table and far away. We were seated with 7 to 14-year-olds. The groom overheard us and agreed with me, but kept quiet when my sister gave him this "don't you dare disagree with me" look. At the end of the night, the groom apologized to my parents for what happened to me and said he had no clue that his bride did that. But he didn't say a word to me as his bride told him not to. Because of this, I decided to not make an issue and just try to enjoy the remainder of the night with my partner, but I wouldn't make a maid of honor speech. My parents noticed where I was and got upset at the situation as well. My siblings knew very well that I wasn't at their table, but didn't bother looking for me or wondering why I wasn't seated there. When they heard that I wasn't making a speech, my 2 brothers walked to my table to tell me off, saying that I had to understand my sister and the stress of being a bride. Be nice to her because it's her special day, and you're only a bride once. Yeah, right, I bet they'll divorce. That I'm a disgrace and a disgusting disappointment for not doing a speech for my sister, that I would make my sister sad, and I was being selfish making the night about me, when I was literally quiet in our corner. Needless to say, I wasn't having the best time, so we got up and left. We ended up in McDonald's for dinner, and I posted a story of us getting burgers, saying post-wedding meal. I made sure that I posted it after the reception ended to not make it look like I ditched, but my siblings saw this as an attack to my sister somehow. Up to this day, the bride says that she did nothing wrong, and her reasoning for putting me there was 1, I didn't plan her wedding exactly like she envisioned during the process, so I deserve to sit there, when I was doing everything that she told me that she wanted. 2. She didn't like that I looked pretty in my gown. And 3. I needed to be punished for insisting on bringing my fiancé. I don't like this woman. I didn't plan for my own wedding yet, as I wanted to be 100% focused on hers. Plus, she banned me from getting married before her since she's older. Again, because I didn't want the drama, I agreed. That is so unhinged. But now I don't want anyone there except my parents and a few close friends. My parents agree with me, but my siblings are upset, calling me childish. But to be completely honest, I just don't feel like paying for shit people. Mine is a destination wedding, and my fiancé and I are paying for everything. These are our savings, and I don't feel like splurging on these people. They, along with my grandparents and cousins, are all saying that I'm wrong. But hey, if I was excluded from being a sibling at my sister's wedding and no one cared, then why would you be upset if I excluded you in return? In the comments, Jungle Rumble 19 says, "Not the asshole. You can't choose your family, but you can choose who you spend time with. Your sister and your siblings are assholes. The fact that an educated doctor can state that you need to be punished and not realize how middle school she's being really shows her garbage person character. She also outsourced the entire wedding planning to you for free and then thought that it was okay to use you as a punching bag. Good for you for standing up to her about your fiancé. What an absolutely ridiculous reason to exclude him. Again, how anyone with any basic self-awareness can say these things is just beyond me. I personally would be going no contact with all but your parents and then build your own family from friends who actually appreciate you and treat you with respect. Not the asshole. Your sister was a mega witch to you, and your siblings supported her acting horribly to you. You have the right to invite only people who you want to be at your wedding and that are supportive of you and your partner. Your siblings clearly don't meet this criteria." Today's theme: terrible vibes. The worst vibes imaginable. I can see why you didn't drop out earlier, OP. I understand that you're doing your sister a big favor and everything, but she had you in major Stockholm Syndrome for the last 12 years. If you really didn't get married because you were waiting for her to get married first, that's insane. And then to have her rub it in your face by trying to not have your fiancé at the wedding is further insane. That's not me blaming you. That's like, I'm surprised that people are so good at manipulating others that they can force others not to get married. For me, the thing that I couldn't stop thinking about was the fact that she's a doctor. She's got a doctor's salary, and yet she needed you to do the wedding planning for free. On top of the disrespect you've already had to deal with, that's even more disrespectful. She should have been paying for her own wedding planner. She could afford it. But she knows that if she's paying for that wedding planner, she can't abuse them, so she got a little inmate here to go do her bidding that she could lash the whole time. I'm really sorry you had to deal with all of that, and I'm sorry that your siblings are all kicking up such a stink because they can't get their way. Well, boo-hoo, siblings, maybe you shouldn't have been shit people. Maybe you guys should have had some self-awareness and self-respect. Not the asshole for not inviting your siblings to your wedding. Update. Hi again. So I'll answer a few questions and leave a quick update. I come from a family of 5 kids. I failed to mention this because I didn't think it was all that relevant, but I actually have 2 sisters, 34 and 32, and 2 brothers, 26 and 22. A little more on my sisters. They're the best of friends. They are the picture-perfect model of sisterly love, while I'm the middle child with 2 younger brothers. So why did I agree to be maid of honor? Well, because I thought it would bring us closer. In my mind, I believed that this was her trying to be more of a sister to me. You always hear stories of that sisterly bond around weddings, and I tried to nurture that because that's what they had. And that sibling bond is what my brothers had with each other as well. Any chance I'd get to connect with my sisters, I would jump at the opportunity. It's more me just feeling left out than being a doormat. I was a very sickly child, and that's why I was mostly with just my parents growing up, while my siblings would be going out, meeting friends, etc. Which is what my siblings envied apparently. They are not close to my parents. And that's not your fault, OP, but apparently it is, huh? Interesting cope by the siblings. Bride had both of us as maid of honor because she couldn't just choose one. I later found out that I was always the second option, and I was just appointed maid of honor so that I could do all the work while the other maid of honor got all the praise. which in hindsight I should have seen coming. While my brothers were busy harassing me about giving my maid of honor speech, Sister 2 was giving her own maid of honor speech about how she absolutely loves the bride and will do anything for her, all that crap. She then conveniently calls all the siblings to the stage to toast the bride and groom when I was crying and rushing out / walking away from my brothers. So to the other relatives in attendance, I was making a scene and making it about me. No. It's not the first time she hurt me. She fat-shamed me as a child, calling me a potato, saying things like I was a burden to the family because of my epilepsy, throwing all of my makeup in the sink and wetting it because I moved her bath towel in the bathroom, calling me a stupid low-IQ sister, even if I'm a licensed architect with a master's degree, when her guy friends wanted to ask for my number, taking my dream church from me, which is why my fiancé said that we could do a destination wedding at my dream country instead. I wonder what country your sister's gonna do her dream honeymoon in. It's just the worst she's done to spite me in front of my entire family. And no, we still haven't spoken since then, and she still maintains that I was the one who ruined everything by getting upset about the seating. Now for the updates. We will elope. Just the two of us and a handful of close friends that were there for us since the beginning of our relationship. We'll have a small church wedding and a little celebration on the beach with the people that we love, our chosen family, followed by island hopping with our entire party around the Philippines. All paid by us, because I will spend on memories and experiences for people that love and appreciate us. The budget we set aside for a wedding in Italy will be put to an intimate 5-day wedding celebration on an island in the Philippines. 2, we will have our reception with the family when we get back home. The plan is to invite both our big families to a luncheon the weekend after. Collectively, this would mean about 80 guests max. Both our parents wanted to help pay for the engagement party and rehearsal dinner. They agreed to pay for this luncheon / reception instead, meaning they could invite whomever they please. They handle the guest list, so if my siblings are invited, I couldn't care less because I'll be too busy with my husband of 1 to 2 weeks by then. Here, we can still have the father-daughter dance and a few other things like cake slicing, etc. We'll have piñatas, a brick oven pizza cart, coffee and pretzels, and an amazing Italian buffet with a pasta bar. Lots of fresh fruit and cheese, because who doesn't like cheese? Ah, Superintendent OP, I hope you're ready for an incredible luncheon. As for the seating plan, ever watched Mamma Mia 1? Yep, think that. A long winding table where my siblings can be as far away from me as possible and as close to the service area as possible without it being obvious, because they'll all be together at their own siblings table. We'll be in the center with my fiancé, his 2 brothers, and our parents will be next to us, while my wonderful sibs are by the end of the table, by the restrooms, where they belong. I don't care at all if they're invited to this lunch, because I really have nothing left for them. Not even anger. I'm just so done with them that I'd feel more for a stranger on the street than I would for these people. It's indifference. They've hurt me so many times that I'm just numb to their existence. 3, no bridezilla allowed. My sister expects to be my maid of honor in return. Definitely not going to happen since my siblings won't be present in the ceremony. I do not need her around. I do not want her around. Yes, she'll be invited out of courtesy to the reception most likely, but I'll make sure that she's set aside like I was. How so? Well, we recently found out she's pregnant, so I'm planning my wedding around her due date. Oh well. I love that. Luckily, she's due around June, which really was the month that we wanted. So if she decided to attend with a newborn and her husband, well, then she's gonna be at the kiddie table and told to step out when the baby starts to cry. In the end, our wedding day is for us, and eloping is the only way that I would feel like we could just sit and enjoy our special day together, away from all the siblings and family issues. Then when we get back, have a get-together lunch with some good food and some good fun, which is really all this is to me, a lunch. Luckily, fiancé's family isn't as insane as mine is. So there you have it. Thank you for all your messages and comments and insights. I really was going a bit loco back then, thinking I was overreacting, but thank you so much for the clarity. Cheers to the end of this emotionally draining year. In the comments, Love Animals 735 says, That sounds perfect. I love it. Small weddings are so much fun instead of the headache of a big wedding. No drama, no stress, easy and fun-loving like it should be. Congratulations, and I want an update on how your wedding trip went. Definitely do an update. And OP says, we'll let you all know how it goes. Right now we're deep into planning mode, and we're simply enjoying the process. Don't let your parents deter you from your plans. OP says, oh, they definitely won't, but thank you for the concern. From either side, both of our grandparents were very problematic to our parents for their weddings, so they're pretty hands-off when it comes to our plans. Yeah, a bit too hands-off when it comes to your bridezilla sister's wedding. I hope your plans work out and they don't again succumb to pressure from Manic older sister to have her more front and center. I hope so too, OP. I hope that your parents actually grow a spine and do something about it. No one specifically said this quote, I just thought it up myself. I hope your parents allow the future to be unburdened by the sins of their past. Marky made that one up. I also hope that at your incredible luncheon, there's some steamed hams. Maybe even a possible sighting of Aurora Borealis. Again, for no reason at all. But really, this all sounds amazing to me, OP. I'm glad to hear that it is all going well, you have boundaries that you are enforcing, and that you're giving them the shellacking that they deserve. I know ideally they don't get an invite to the luncheon, but parents would be sad if abusive siblings can't come to your event. Yada yada yada, I get it. Life sucks. Hopefully they don't rock the boat too much while you're rocking their boat. Final updates. I know a number of you have been waiting, and I swear that this is the soonest I could post, I'm sorry. I promise I'll explain. The wedding. I absolutely enjoyed wedding planning with my husband. Yay! If you ever decide to get married, do a small wedding. You'll live longer, I swear. We told our friends and families that we were pushing back the wedding and wanted to do a destination bachelor/bachelorette trip first. They had no idea that we were actually getting married on this trip. We got to Boracay 3 days before everyone for some us time. When friends arrived, we did all the fun island activities. The night before our wedding, we asked everyone to be up at 7 for breakfast and to dress up in tropical beach outfits for cute pics. We told them to pack this beforehand. Once everyone was there, husband told them that we were to be married at 4 p.m. and that this was actually an elopement. The excitement from all of our friends will forever be a core memory. It's the best feeling to actually have people genuinely happy for you. Us girls did each other's hair and makeup, cried and hugged a lot, while the boys had a good time drinking and playing football. We had our phones and an old digital camera that we'd pass around, and that was it for our event photos. Surprises were our thing since we began dating, and it was just so sweet that we both thought to do the same for our wedding. I love flowers, but I didn't want to bother finding a supplier there. We did have someone help us with all the requirements, but that was it. I would just get flowers for the luncheon instead. Well, my husband decided to speak to the hotel to surprise me. He knew my favorite flowers and made the prettiest bouquet ever. He also had the church filled, and I ruined my makeup ugly crying when I walked in. For my husband, he is extremely close with his brothers, so I made sure to fly them out to surprise him too. He needed his best men there, and I was happy to have them. We said our I-dos and headed to the hotel for dinner by the beach for a budol fight. Google that now, it's so good. Nothing fancy, but we were happy. The luncheon. Before the elopement, I sent my seating plan to our family's group chat because I didn't want them to make a scene on the day. Everyone thought that these were the seating plans for our reception. Well, here is where my pettiness shows. My head table consisted of us, our parents, and my husband's bros. All my siblings were at both ends of the long table. My favorite slap in the face, though, was a table for one way in the back, tagged breastfeeding area with my sister's name on the chair. She was livid. I simply said that I was looking out for her. I expected that she'd want some privacy, no hard feelings, just thinking ahead. My siblings refused to come because they saw my elopement as an act of disrespect, especially since my brothers-in-law were there. They called our relatives to tell them not to come. Some were upset that I could do that to family, and they did not agree with our union. I'm happy to report that out of 127 guests, only 58 were coming. So I cut my budget by over half. Sounds like a win to me. The venue was my husband's small family farm, which was so beautiful that I didn't need to spend much on decor at all. Music was just a Spotify playlist we made. Photos, prenup, beach, and lunch were all by my friends. Cake was baked by me and my mum 2 nights before. Flowers I bought for myself from the morning market and arranged with my girls. My dress was just one that I had in my closet. For food, we asked people to bring over potluck meals instead of gifts if they wanted to. We still had our pizza oven, pretzel cart, and coffee bar that we paid for instead of a caterer. E-invites were designed by us and sent via mail. Since my siblings all didn't want to attend, only Bridezilla's hubby got an invite, with no option for a +1. Her C-section was scheduled a week before my wedding. Did she notice that I planned for her to miss the luncheon? Yes, she did. It was magical. Us being so unaffected upset them even more. But I've come to realize that the louder you try to force people to side with your opinions and your narrative, then the more toxic, unhinged, narcissistic you are. No, I didn't need to go no contact with them because they all decided to be no contact with me. I didn't even need to try. Blessings left and right. For those blaming my parents, none of my siblings were neglected. If anything, they gave my siblings so much more time and freedom to compensate for all the attention that I needed. Remember, these kids are grown-ass adults. My parents are seniors. They are tired. They told my siblings off for being gigantic, gaping assholes, but what else can they do, really? Put them on timeout? Since both of our parents wanted to pitch in, they helped us with a down payment on a house instead. In return, we surprised them with a 1-week vacation each to Amanpulo. We saved so much from our wedding and luncheon that we just wanted to show how much we appreciate their support and love. And lastly, any extra food and flowers were either taken home by guests or donated. That just made everything more special. Weddings are about love. Our favorite people were around to celebrate us, and we made sure to also celebrate the love that we have for them. Our family, best friends, dogs, who were the stars of the show really. I fully embrace this life of peace, contentment, and indifference for my siblings. No idea what they're up to, sorry. They kicked me out of the group chat, and I only know that my sister gave birth because brother-in-law messaged she did. The last thing I heard is they were still trying to badmouth my husband, but we really couldn't care less. We've moved on. Sucks for them that they haven't. Thank you all for following along. It was empowering to know that I wasn't alone, and enlightening to hear that this type of sibling abuse isn't actually normal. This is your kiddie table maid of honor finally signing off. In the comments, Nomadic PNY says, "Congratulations on the wonderful and drama-free wedding. By the way, great choice on Boracay. It's one of our favorite spots to visit when we go home. As for having boodle fights for reception, great idea. Big celebration in Philippines usually involves having that set up. I hope your parents enjoyed their vacation in Palawan. That province is so picturesque. And great job on looking out for your sister's well-being by giving her a private space for breastfeeding. Congratulations again to you and your husband." Oh my god, your husband sounds amazing for doing that for you. Also, I googled boodle fights and, well, I think even the Italian half of my family would be both impressed. And they do food good. Your wedding sounds amazing and way more fun than hers. It's cute that they thought that yours was disrespectful. Can't handle what they dish out, huh? She's mad that you didn't throw her the most Pinterest-worth baby shower ever, and of course buy her the 12 most expensive gifts on her registry. Well, you're too busy getting married and having a honeymoon. It must have slipped your mind. She's gonna be a nightmare parent, by the way. God forbid he or she doesn't get straight A's or get a gold star for wiping their own butts. The kids' teachers will hate her soon enough, and yes, they will gossip. You, on the other hand, I hope your baby grows up to be tough like their mum. The siblings are so toxic that without OP in the picture, they're gonna devour each other like hungry piranhas. It's gonna be hilarious. The wedding and luncheon looked absolutely amazing. I'm so happy for OP and her hubby. That is an adorable story. Yes, they will, and her husband will definitely enjoy hearing all about the aftermath, especially now it seems that OP is pregnant. Fun times. This is good soup for the soul. I'm so happy for the both of them. I aspire to be this wholesomely petty. I don't think that this is a happy ending. OP is trying way too hard to make it look like that, but her luncheon was cut in half, meaning that the siblings convinced pretty much everyone except for her parents to not attend. And I don't see how any of this really is revenge for the original sting. Don't get me wrong, I really hope that OP is happy, because if things are like she describes, the family are assholes. But I really think she's still crushed inside and pretending to be happy, while her evil family suffered absolutely no consequences. I think that she's facing the reality of things. This shows her who her family really are and who are not. Of course, she probably will be sad to face the reality that her siblings are all trash and that the family are a bunch of assholes. But now she can filter who she can put effort into to be close to and who she can put on the sidelines. And she cut her budget in half. She saved money not catering to a bunch of assholes. I hope you're right. Family estrangement hurts. There's a sadness that will probably never go away, but it's also liberating to not have to worry about them anymore. And it's likely that she's been slowly coming to this point for years now. Quote, "There's a sadness that will probably never go away." Perhaps for you, some people are finally free and happy when they accept that the other person, or people, are the problem and never look back. Yeah, I prefer to take the more optimistic view of this one. Maybe it's a little less realistic, but I agree with Fries Shake with Booty. I'm going to assume that the OP is more free and happy based on their words now that the siblings are out of their life. I do hope that OP never looks back. I do hope that OP lets go of whatever emotional anchors would be tying her down, because to go through all of that in your childhood with things that aren't your fault and then to be blamed for that and ousted socially from your siblings, it's not easy. That is definitely something that would stick with you your whole life. I'm sure therapy can help, dilute those feelings a little bit, but if it were me, I don't think I could ever really get over it. Especially knowing that there was nothing I could have done to change the outcome there. You can't choose to be sickly your whole childhood. And then to have that situation follow you for the rest of your life and get you bullied by people that you so desperately just want a connection with, I don't know, it's torturous. So yeah, to me this is a double-ended sword. I'm glad that OP got out of it, but to have so many people not show up to the luncheon because of their poison is just another dagger to the heart. And yes, you can put on a happy face and say, I'm just really happy with the luncheon and everything. There's less people to cater for. Look at the bright side. I'd be hurting from that. I'd need some therapy that they're still able to damage me so much. As always, thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I really appreciate that. I hope all goes well in the future. Am I the asshole here for cutting off my family for getting a restraining order on my husband? I, 33 female, have been married to my husband, 32 male, for a few months, but we've been together for 6 years. My parents had asked us to move into their house 2 years back to help them out since my dad is medically disabled. We agreed because this would allow us to save up for a house. When I was 19, my father had a brain tumor, and at the same time, his mother was in the hospital and it wasn't good. My mum spent all of her time at the hospital with my grandma, so I decided to take 2 years off from college and put in a leave of absence from my job until my dad was better so I could take care of him and my brother who was younger. Fast forward, I met my now husband at work and we hit it off. From the beginning, he took it upon himself to take my father to appointments and fix things around the house for them. When we moved in, my husband fixed the house for my parents every day after working 10 hours a day. Anything they asked of him, he did. He fixed the dryer 6 times, he repaired the HVAC system, he is not in HVAC, he took his personal time to learn the basics so that heat would work, and anything else they needed. So now we're married for a few months and have been looking for a home. My mother has been rude and passive-aggressive with him ever since we got married. Some backstory on my childhood. I was emotionally abused by my mum and was taught how to hate my father because he was always working. My mother always used to tell me that my dad had no time for me and to not bother him for anything. My mother once broke an easel over my head when I was 6 because I was playing Barbies with my friend and she wanted to play with my new one and I told her she could play with any other one that she wanted. My mother has always been toxic, but I was always gaslit by family and friends, and it was always my fault. My brother, on the other hand, had stolen from my parents, stolen thousands and thousands of dollars from them, became addicted to hard drugs, and has threatened to beat my parents and myself multiple times. He's the golden child and can do no wrong. I have always resented my parents for this, but was always made to believe that I was being stupid and that it was my fault. My husband and I have put our own money into my parents' house to help fix it for them with no request for payment back. My parents have been ungrateful for everything that we, especially my husband, have done for them, but we kept doing it because we lived there too. I was recently told by my therapist that in order to be healthy for myself and my husband, I would have to confront my parents about all the issues and trauma that I had been dealing with. So I do this, and all of a sudden, they claim that my husband is brainwashing me. In their words, there was never an issue, so why am I speaking up now? I was explaining to them that my therapist wants me to work on being more healthy with my family, and that is why I chose to speak to them. My husband and I received many gifts for our wedding, and both of my parents said to place them in a room that no one uses. Just recently, they've been complaining about the gifts and told us to figure out storage. So yesterday, we bought a small shed from Sam's Club so that we can place all of our things in it. This is what set my mother off. She said that it was her house and we had no right to purchase it. When we tried to explain the reason for it, she started screaming at my husband, telling him he does nothing in the house and we just choose to do whatever we want to do because we are selfish. She also said that she wanted us out of her house. I told her that we had no place to go and that we needed time. She then charged my husband and went to punch him in the face. My father stopped her and then they called the police. When the police came, they told us that they felt sorry for us because we hadn't done anything, but that they decided to place a temporary restraining order on my husband and that they wanted me evaluated for brainwashing and Stockholm Syndrome. All of this over a frickin' shed? The cops came a few hours later and said that I didn't have to leave, but that temporarily he would have to. So we packed up our things and our dog and left to a hotel. I've been getting messages from family saying that I'm in the wrong and that I'm an asshole because I put my parents through hell. I've decided for my own mental health that I need to cut off all the toxic family members because my husband and I don't deserve this. Am I the asshole here? Edit. Hey all. I noticed my wording about the Stockholm Syndrome and brainwashing nonsense sounded like it came from the cops. I'm sorry. My parents were yelling and begging the police to evaluate me because I would never speak to them like this on my own. The police obviously didn't do anything of the sort, and even told my parents that I was clearly speaking for myself and was under no duress. In the comments, BitBat Gaming says, "Not the asshole. They have already decided to be enemies with you in childhood." OP says, "Thank you. I never thought of it like that, but you're right. OP, go check out r/raised by narcissists. You are not alone." And OP says, "Thank you so much. This comment made me cry. I felt like I've been alone in all of this except for my husband. Thank you, thank you. There's a whole community of support for you. I followed the subreddit a couple years now, and it's been so helpful for me. I hope that it helps you too." OP says, "Thank you so much. I appreciate your help and kind words, and I hope that you continue to be blessed. Just a word of warning, the first stage is grief, because you have to grieve the parents that you've always hoped to have. After you get to acceptance, it becomes easier to deal with once that hope is fully gone." Why the hell would you put up with them for so long? OP says, "I was always taught and conditioned to believe family over everything, and then I met my now husband who has been a blessing, and he showed me my worth. Blood means nothing. Family is who you choose." And OP says, "I live by that now, and I'm just happy that I have a husband who loves me and who has a family that truly loves us." And then you decided to move in with them again. OP says, "I've said it before. I thought that it was normal and that I was the issue. I was always taught that family is everything and that I should always believe that my parents will always be there for me." Right. And then you met your husband and he showed you your true worth, and then your mum asks you to move in. So it's been at least 2 years of you knowing that this is wrong, and despite her apparently treating your husband like shit, you continue to do everything for them and not leave. Hell, you're buying a damn shed, and apparently the only thing to get you out of there is them filing a restraining order. OP says, my husband refused to leave unless we were told by law enforcement to leave the premises. I just know that you guys are going to cook these mean commenters for saying mean things. I completely understand where you're coming from, but I think some people just assume that everyone should understand what, narcissists are like, and that everyone should just understand that they need to leave these situations straight away and do better for themselves. And then they become jaded that they read hundreds of stories with reoccurring circumstances like this. I get that they're jaded, but I think that some of these people need to step back for a second and not be so mean to people that are figuring it out, that are coming out of the brain fog of abuse. The fact that the police are like, Jesus Christ, you're struggling with Stockholm Syndrome right now, this is not okay. That just shows me that OP is so early days in their journey of rediscovery, of finding their own worth. OP did such a good job, in my opinion, of pushing back against these commenters, and I hope that they get the outcome that they deserve. So not the asshole here for cutting off your family. They are absolutely disgusting people. And now, on to the updates. Hello Reddit friends. For those of you who read my first post, it's been 80 days since I posted it, and a lot has changed. My husband and I found a house, and will be moving into our home at the end of August. I'm currently low contact with my parents, only because a lot of our things are in their house, and I've already set up a day for the movers to come help me gather all of our belongings, and yes, my parents know that we are taking our things. My parents were given no information, other than we found a place of our own. My father has ignored me since the situation they caused, and basically blames me for it, but then tells my mum out loud that he's not mad at me when I'm there. My mother thinks that all is well, even though I tell her that our relationship is the furthest from fine, but narcissistic parents will believe what they want. Once all of our things are out of the house, I'm cutting all contact with my parents and whoever else needs to go. My husband and I, even though this is a difficult situation, have gotten stronger and are living a fairly peaceful life. Therapy has been wonderful, and all the wonderful things that are coming our way, we are welcoming with open arms. One thing I realized, other than my parents being narcissists, is that I really did go through a lot of trauma throughout my life, and my parents still think that they are the best parents out there. There was a moment in the beginning of all of this where I thought that I couldn't keep going. When I came out of that place and was strong again, I spoke with my parents about it since my mum kept telling me how much they care about me still. Their response to all of this was, "Oh, well, that's not our fault, and shit happens." They're right, shit does happen, and it's gonna hit them hard once I'm out of their lives for good. Thanks for all the kind words and advice. I thought I'd share with those, if anyone, who cared to know how we are doing. I cared to know how you're doing, OP, and I love that you are doing better. In the comments, Stolen Trollin says, "Congrats on finding a house and starting your own life away from your toxic family. Sometimes no contact is the only way to heal. It's been over 20 years with my family, and I'm still thankful for every peaceful day without their narc shadow darkening and poisoning everything and everyone around them." OP says, "Thank you so much. I hope you continue to thrive in your life. At first, I thought that I could never go no contact, and now I realize how much more peaceful my life is without them trying to control everything in it. It seems such a huge step, and then you realize how much better your life is." OP says, "Seriously, it's been such a blessing in disguise. May I suggest that you not tell your parents the date on which you'll have the movers at their house? This is because they may decide last minute that you are still being brainwashed and either get rid of your belongings or hide them from you. Also, let the police know that you will be there and why. You can do that either by calling the non-emergency number or making a quick stop at the police department before going to your parents. That way, if a conflict of any kind were to happen, the police would already know what your intent is. I'm so sorry that you're going through all of this. Good luck." OP says, "Thank you so much, and I will definitely be taking your advice. Congratulations on your new home. That is exciting news. I'm glad to read that you're in therapy. The longer you go, the better the peace you'll have. Through therapy or on your own, learn as much as you can about dealing with narcissistic behavior, how to speak to them, and how to defend and deflect from their attacks. Even though it's right, you may feel a little off kilter. You are mourning a loss, and there are stages of mourning. Like another commenter said, you have reached acceptance. The next stage is indifference. When you reach indifference, it won't matter anymore, because you won't care anymore and can let it go. OP says, I'm so excited that I feel so free. I love this feeling, and I'll continue to work and do better for myself and my little family. Update 2. Hello Reddit friends. So if you haven't seen my previous posts, check out my profile for the other two. So my husband and I moved into our new house, and we are loving the freedom. When I went to my parents' house on Friday to help the movers, my brother began saying some disrespectful things to me for no reason. I was moving my stuff outside when he stopped me to tell me how shit I am, and the whole family is so happy for me to be out of the house permanently. I took this moment to see if my mother or father would stand up for me for once, and they didn't. Therapy has been so helpful throughout this process, so it didn't bother me that he said it or that they did nothing. It just makes cutting them off so much easier. My mother then texted me asking if she and I can work on our relationship. I told her that I'm not ready right now because she had still proven that my brother and my father disrespecting me does not faze her. That's when she hit me with the, I've done so much for you and you treat me this way? Well, the answer is yes, because my life is much better without their toxicity. My husband and I are so happy to have this home for ourselves and for our fur baby. I just want to thank you all so much for all the support and kind words that you shared. If anything with my parents comes up, I'll update, but at the moment, this is the last. I hope you all have wonderful lives and just never give up. Stay strong and kick life's ass. In the comments, Bizaster says, I have a family member like this, and the best solution I've found is to cut them off completely, ignore them, and live your own life. I now live a wonderful life in another state where I never have to interact with this person. Do your own thing, never feel bad, and let yourself be happy. OP replies, beautiful advice. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm already loving the freedom and the fact that I don't have to interact with them. Messed up people like that do not give up that easily. Put your cameras up in the morning and just keep your head on a swivel. That means pay attention, because now that they don't have you in the house anymore to be their doormat, they want to be upset. Especially now that you are absolutely going to be living your best life. And those miserable pieces of shit don't want you to be happy, but you will be. God bless you. OP says, thank you so much. I believe that God has given me the husband that I have because he set up our cameras on day one and has inspired me to be much stronger than I thought I could be. Now that they're not in my life, I feel so calm and happy. I feel like a totally different person. I sure hope that her family doesn't know where she moved to and check all of her stuff for tracking devices just to be safe. I wouldn't put it past her genetic donors and their darling baby boy from trying shit. She also needs to inform the police that she's safe and happy in case they try to report her missing or something. Also, both need to tell their employers that her family isn't to know anything about them. Hope her and her husband have a happy and healthy life together. The parents are going to miss OP and her husband when the HVAC goes out again and they suddenly have to pay for the repairs. Either that, or they'll call on the drug addict brother to fix it and are just shocked when the copper wiring goes missing. Wait. The mother assaulted the kid because the mother wanted to play with the Barbie, or the other kid wanted to? I think the other kid wanted the new doll, OP refused, OP's mum punished her for refusing. Unfortunately, this is something that I can relate to in my own childhood. Yeah, that's one that really kind of stuck with me and then got brushed under the rug and not mentioned again. Holy shit, what a childhood. You're playing with Barbie dolls and then you have a disagreement with your sibling, which is perfectly normal, so your mum's response is to break an easel over your head as a child. Truly psychotic parenting right there. Oh my god, I'm surprised you even survived childhood. It's a miracle that you're actually a well-adjusted person at all, given the circumstances, so truly I want to give you a standing ovation for being able to break out of those shackles and being well-adjusted enough to even escape. Best of luck for you and your future with your husband, OP. I wish nothing but the best for you two, and I'm so happy that everything is looking up now. I don't even expect another update in the future, and thank you for sharing your story with us.